Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka.
It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Baka. What is Baka? Because you might be a first-time listener saying, hey, there's 200 episodes on the backlog here. Maybe I'll check them out. Well, we are an anime podcast. Every 2 weeks, we watch an anime, and then we come on to this podcast to discuss it like a book club. Because we're not very smart and don't really know what we're talking about, we turn our conversation over to you, the listeners, to share what you liked, what you didn't like, where we're right, where we're wrong. Really, it's a community thing. We're just planting the seeds here in this podcast. Also, if this is your first time, I would just like to apologize for Jason. You'll see why soon. I'm kidding. He's a fan favorite, and I'm very jealous of him. Oh.
I do need to inform everybody.
You haven't been introduced yet, sir. You will hold your tongue. You see what I mean? I think I also want to speak for the group, for everyone who has been listening over the past 200 episodes, whether for a long time, short time, everyone who's left a comment ever. Thank you. That's awesome. We're literally just three idiots talking about anime. And probably way too old to be doing it, and it's just fun to talk with you guys.
Real quick, I will have to say, when we decided to do this, we were going to post this whether we had 0 viewers or not. Like that, we just wanted to make this. So, yeah, genuine thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what are we doing today? We said we were going to watch an anime in our last episode, and that's not what this is. Sorry. Suicide Squad Isekai is coming up next. We promise. We had to do something special for 200, and we kind of forgot it was here. Yeah. So, what are we doing? Well, when we started, our first episode was My Hero Academia. That was our very first podcast. Before that, we did a pilot just to practice, just to see if our format worked, tweak it a little bit, and we watched an old anime OVA called Iria, Zerim the Animation.
Yep.
Except for on Amazon Prime, it's called Iria, Zerim the Bounty Hunter, and that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, bad Amazon.
But that is where you can watch it if you wanted to follow along with us. That's kind of not what we're doing, though. We're going to live react to our pilot episode. I still have the footage. Even I have the edited footage. I did edit it for some reason. So we're just going to watch that, and we're going to talk over it. We're going to stop it and add in our own commentary. We rewatched the OVA together so that we could have new opinions, see how they hold up. That's what we're doing. If you'd also like to just have the pilot episode raw on the channel, we can do that. Just let us know. But yeah, that's what we're doing today. So to do that, I need the help of my co-host for the 100th, 200th time. Professionals. So first off, we have the Ghost Stories rewatch to my minisode. It's Jeremy with his hot take on the podcast itself.
This podcast has the most amazing research and balanced viewpoints. Okay, so hot take and sarcasm, those are the same thing, right?
Wait, I think we're balanced.
Well,
you
maybe
hate something, I love it.
Yeah, all three of us together, we create a balance.
All right, we also have the Baka breakdown to my Elden Ring playthrough. Jason.
2 episodes.
Hey, we tried it.
We weren't good at it.
It is what it is. Troy's joke never failed to disappoint.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I disagree, sir.
Yeah, and your intro jokes are the worst.
Every single bit has been audience tested and mother approved.
I mean, we are in episode 200.
Fair.
And my name is Troy, and my hot take is, man, this podcast could use with some high production and editing to make it more watchable. I know I would listen to it if it did.
Wait, I thought it was an audio podcast. What's happening?
It's both. Which we're about to see how that works too, because we're gonna have our old voices and our new voices mixing together for you audio only. I'm gonna try to keep them a little bit quieter, and us also. We'll try to call ourselves future us and past us. Like, hey, past Jeremy had a good opinion, and this is future Troy talking now. So,
this is gonna be really interesting. Then.
Yeah. We gotta do something for the audio. I know you are.
Maybe encourage them to watch the video this time. Who knows?
Hey, yeah.
We gotta get the Spotify numbers up. Who cares about the YouTube channel?
It has kind of stayed the same.
I do. I kind of wanted to go back and touch on both the Ghost Stories rewatch and the Baka Breakdown Elden Ring playthrough.
Yeah, whatever happened to the Elden Ring playthrough?
I wouldn't worry about it.
I know there's footage of us fighting that crystal dragon in the swamp that never got aired or edited. Yeah, you didn't release all the footage. It's not that we didn't run out of footage. You just stopped making the episodes, and then because you beat the game, we also stopped recording. But we don't. There's more in the can.
No, I never beat the game. I had life stuff that came up. I couldn't edit anymore.
Yeah,
stuff was set on fire. I get it.
Yep.
Ghost Stories
was amazing.
What was one of
that was YouTube's fault.
Yeah, one of my favorite things we did. Tons of copyright issues. Same with Baka Breakdown. Baka Breakdown ran into a ton of copyright issues. That's why we had to stop that. But yeah, Ghost Stories, watch along. But also, it was the most popular thing on our channel, but only because people wanted to just watch Ghost Stories and were mad that we were there at all. So even though it was awesome for the algorithm for our channel, it probably kept us, got us more views than anything else. I definitely did. It didn't feel right to keep it, and I do miss it. It was a great time, but just not sustainable. Oh, I opening and closing. Jason, you've never liked our opening.
Nope.
That's why it's gone now, right?
No, we still have it.
We play it every time.
Oh, I was mixing up the opening with the introduction because we used to have like a long introduction where we talked about what was going on.
Yeah, we do that off camera now. To get people to the content faster. Yeah.
Yeah, but intro is different than OPs. But yeah,
that's true.
I love the Vegeta line, but I think it's a little too long. That's all.
I love the whole thing. The more Bakas, the better.
I was going to do a bit where I tried to say Baka 200 times, and then I realized that's going to be too hard.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so maybe there is an upper limit.
Yeah, I think it fits in with the anime theme because, most people who watch anime watch that OP. I wonder how many people watch the whole OP every time.
I mean, I don't know. It's not really long enough to skip through, I would think.
Right. Yeah, I'm not just saying ROP. I'm saying like in general in anime
OPs.
The general viewer, do they almost always? I know you don't. I do.
No, I know you guys don't because sometimes you talk about skipping in Netflix and stuff.
Netflix skips for me, and I complain about that.
but it happens.
It does happen.
I will purposely watch the OP and ED at least once with every single thing we watch. However, the majority of the time, like 97%, I skip.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you were watching the anime week to week, though, would you still skip it?
Yes.
I probably would. It depends on how much I liked it. If it was a real banger OP or it had really good visuals that I liked, so like Delicious in Dungeon visuals for the first core, I would watch that every week.
Yeah, I remember a few that I remember watching multiple times. Sometimes I would skip, but most of the time I watched it. I remember Princess Principal. For some reason, that song just like take something in my brain, and I'm just like, I loved, and also they did a really good job matching the visuals with the beats of the song, so I ended up watching that a lot.
I feel like it's part of the experience. Like that's why I don't skip it.
Would.
Well, I mean, they put it in front of every episode. You know, it's like watching Full House. You got to listen to that song. It gets you in the Full House mood. I think that's an anime OP's job, is to set my mood to the appropriate. And that's why I get upset when they like, hey, you got it all whimsical, and then it was sad, depressing story. Like, you didn't do your job.
I think they can do it that way. Like, so for instance, ReZero, Summertime Render, there are a handful of other anime that really incorporate OP and ED really well.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, and in those cases, I'd say, yeah, absolutely. Or if you have an OP that changes partway through, reflects the differences in what's going on in the story, that's awesome. But there's also OP and ED, which I think is more typical, that they're just a boilerplate. Yeah, you're right. Like, they are there kind of to set the mood, but they don't even always set the mood correctly. Like, I know that we've complained in the past about several anime that were like, whoa, the story is so tragic or dark or whatever, and then boing, 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 boing with the outro. It's like, what the heck?
All right, so we are going to start our live reaction. Again, we're watching ourselves 6 years ago. Oh boy.
Seven, I think.
7 years
Because it was
ago?
2016. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure our Twitter account would just hit its 6th anniversary.
Maybe we're into the 7th year, but not a full 7.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a long time. There are going to, I don't know if I give a spoiler warning in this, so if you haven't seen the OVA Iria, Zerim, the animation, the old 90s
94
series, there's gonna be spoilers for that coming up. If you want to watch it,
some
it's on
spoilers
Amazon
for the movies too.
Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Jeremy spoiled some stuff from the live action movies, because
if I don't, then I will now.
Yeah, that's
how many are there? 3?
There's 2 live action movies.
2 live actions.
Yeah, 91 and 94.
Yeah. All right. So also for Jeremy, these are movies. Like, for me, when I watched it this time, it was episodes. There was 6 episodes of the anime, because they broke the OVAs in half for each one or something like that. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna get us set up and we'll start watching.
Oh boy.
All right, sharing my screen.
Oh boy.
Flawless production.
This is so high tech.
Oh, that's right. We used to have our avatars next to our names.
Yeah, we did. We should bring that back.
It was because that's what Google would do, and that's not post production. That's in video.
That was before the new Hangouts, right? Or this was Hangouts.
This was Hangouts.
Yeah, this is before Google Meet.
It was really nice, because it would go straight to my personal YouTube channel, which is why I still have this footage, and then I could edit it. I could download it, edit it, and then post it to our Baka channel.
Holy crap, Jeremy, you were right. You were like 30 pounds lighter.
I told you, like, I gained.
And it's mostly
pounds.
Your beard.
Yeah, this is what it is. It's all hair.
Hitting play in 3, 2, 1. Didn't play.
We are professionals.
High quality production.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Baka Baka Baka. This is our anime podcast where we
love the echo.
Club style. We watch a new anime, 13 episodes every 2 weeks. Then we come together for this podcast. We're going to discuss plots, themes, characters.
I miss those glasses. Those are good glasses.
And with each other all the time.
I hate my glasses.
We hope to include our audience in the discussion.
Man, your microphone is so much better.
On Twitter, email, or just leave nasty comments.
Absolutely.
About, others' beards.
My delivery is exactly the same, though.
Oh, you're already hitting on beards. First episode.
My name is Troy, but let's get to the people with the great beards and the much better things to say. So to my imaginary
I wasn't ready for the cringe.
To my skipper, we have Jeremy. How you doing, Jeremy?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good.
My
And
goodness,
to my
holy
metaphysical
crap.
right, we have the Lego to my Mega Blocks. Jason, how are you, Jason?
Fantastic. Nice to be here.
Awesome.
I didn't know that bit started in the pilot. Good for me.
For our anime.
200 episodes later, he's still
And
picking on
Iria,
Jason.
Amazing.
Zerim the Animation is the correct title. Is that right?
That's correct.
I still didn't remember the episode.
So before we get into it, anything else you guys have been watching these past 2 weeks? Any nerd stuff?
I look like an overly trimmed chia pet. It's just something wrong with that beard.
I mentioned Path of Exile in our first. Amazing.
Attack on Titan, and also.
Wait, Jason, your profile pic doesn't have an anime picture. You just have a non-bearded version of your face.
Did I not pick one at this point? I guess
I
not.
don't think you did.
As a pilot, no one's supposed to see this. All right,
So good.
Sedona, but to no avail.
That's
They're
true.
one of the slowest services, but I pay for it, so there's that.
How about you, Jeremy?
Not really that much. Been pretty busy. I have
very standard
been
answer for
reading a
Jeremy.
little bit.
Yes.
Got some old books that I got out of a dusty shelf, and so there's one of them. It's
Man, I was so nervous.
It's called Tinker. It's by Wynne
So this is
Spencer.
you're still on
And
the
it's actually
odd
kinda
diet, right?
cool. It's a cyberpunk.
Yeah,
book.
yeah,
It's
that's
a
exactly. That's why I look so
fantasy.
emaciated.
And usually those fail really badly, but so far in the first 100 pages, it's not that bad. It's pretty good.
Is that part of the
Tinker.
series?
Not.
Look at me
that
asking
know
questions
of.
like I
don't
care.
think it becomes one.
I know, right? I don't think
So-
I finished the book either.
Why is nobody watching Stranger Things? Guys, why are you not watching Stranger Things?
I hear good
Oh,
things.
Stranger Things was a
That's
thing
not-
back then. That's right.
It was a
Come
thing.
to your houses and I will make you watch Stranger Things.
I hear good things about it, so.
It should be done by now, but it's not. It takes too long to make that show.
Contention. And Jeremy, I would like you to correct me if I'm wrong, which I know I'm not.
Classic Jason ruining
Oh my
the.
god.
Yeah, that's right.
Iria? Yeah, it is. It's pronounced Iria, but that's okay.
No, it's not.
Let's watch
The pronunciation never matters.
It's Iria.
It's Iria.
The R is pronounced
Yeah, like a
Oh, here we go.
Iria.
Not one of the English actors pronounced
The nerd
That's okay.
nerd
I'm so
fighting
glad-
is already happening.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we don't do that very much anymore.
Oh yeah, no, never. Pronunciation never comes
We'll get
up.
into the characters, but yeah, I had times trying to get the names down and then going back to the web and making sure I had them right and being way off. Okay, so before we start talking fully about Iria, before you guys watched it, and I know Jeremy, you've seen it before. I think I've seen at least some of it before. What were you expecting going into Iria?
absolutely nothing.
You won't be disappointed.
So when you announced that was the one we were going to watch, I was like, there was zero context given. You just said, hey, the one we're watching. I was like, okay, great. Because the last one we
I don't recognize
kind
that
of
shirt.
watched together, if you will, was
I think it's just a T-shirt, right? Is something yellow on it?
Kill.
Kill la Kill?
No, Akame got Kill. And so I thought it might be in that vein. And
Man,
so when I booted
I
up
had a
for-
hairline. That's so
You still do. It's just kind of crept a little bit.
Yeah, it's just it's like the tide, except it never comes
I have
back.
not seen
Yeah.
cyberpunk, almost crossover steampunk, like almost a Star Wars-y feel to it. I wasn't expecting that, so that was actually pretty nice. But yeah,
Jason, do you feel this still has a Star Warsy feel?
Not at all.
Hey, you want to expand on what past Jason said here?
I think think the only thing that really jumped out at me this time was everything's really unique, and I like the take that they took as far as the art direction for the technology, because it's so vastly different than the sci-fi that we see today. Like the rocket launchers have these weird like almost I don't even know how to describe
Air
that
pumps,
shape.
that where you squeeze it and it shoots air, like a eyedropper, baby dropper thing.
Oh yeah, the tanks. That was pretty funny. It was like, it's like an old school perfume sprayer. But
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Star Wars-ish anymore. I think what I meant by that was, like, so for instance, the X-wings. Those are like in lore-wise, they're basically just kind of trashed together spaceships, aren't they? Like, they just what parts they could find, they made into ships.
Y-wing. If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the designs kind of felt that way back then, but I wouldn't say that now.
Yeah, I think it's a very heavy inspiration from like Indian architecture. Really comes through in the design for all the weapons and stuff.
That's it. Like the top of a mosque, you've got that globe that comes up to it.
Yeah.
Like there's tons of that, whether it be like the engines or weapons or like pens, like just everything at them.
Well, and I love that, like, when you get the shots of inside of that basically land speeder that they're in, it has wood paneling on the inside. I love that.
I was gonna say I loved how much wood was on all this space age technology. That was probably my favorite note of the art direction. They like put wood on the laser cannon, just covered in wood.
And bamboo, like the cannons that those things shot out of were bamboo. I mean, they looked like bamboo. It's awesome.
I loved the idea. So like, again, today's sci-fi, it's like it's almost like ships or being underwater is kind of a lot of the designs of like, you call them ships for a reason. In this, if you were going to go into space, you just needed the force field to activate. And it's like, that's interesting, because we have a lot, like, again, in Star Wars, all the bays that you would fly a ship into, it's got an air sealed force field. They just put that as the cockpit. So I think that's neat. That's neat. Different direction.
All right, let's go back to the past.
Yeah, no expectations whatsoever.
Jeremy, you're actually the one who picked out this anime, so why don't you
surprise there.
give us the concept
I know, right?
of it, what's going on in this
old anime.
All right. Well, this anime was really kind of a nostalgia trip for me. I've seen it. This is probably the fourth time. So I actually wrote down a few. I was preparing for this opportunity.
Yes.
That's
me doing my preparation.
Space monster in an action-packed futuristic Mortal Kombat.
Oh jeez. Trying so hard to get like through my nerves.
Delivery, man.
Don't worry, Jeremy. No one's ever gonna see this. There's no reason to be stressed.
You promised.
You should watch it again. You'll catch me.
Feel so betrayed.
Give a very general review of it that doesn't have any spoilers in it, and warning to anyone listening, we're starting to get into slight spoilery range. We're gonna get into heavy spoiler range, but for now, if you haven't seen it, this might be a good time.
I'm allowing some spoilers in the early review. Shame.
We hadn't figured that one out yet.
What were your overall impressions of it when you finished it?
Also, no, that's later. I'll keep going. I want to talk about the OP. He's not going to talk about the OP, and I'm already upset with him for it.
Give it the program, old Troy. Wait, young Troy.
Past Troy.
It had a
okay.
semi Star Warsy feel to it. Kind of that futuristic, space travel-y.
Well, we got the Jasons not agreeing at all. He's doubling down on the Star Wars.
Section of the culture that was, suppressed and down. But then you had the other side where you had the government who was, they had all the technological advances. Like there's a couple scenes where the main character is storming one of the buildings, and it's a very nice looking building. It's very futuristic looking. So as far as a thematic, I really enjoyed it. I know Jeremy said that you got to pay a lot to the details, but some of it just fell flat for me, and I don't know if I just need to go and watch it again.
How dare.
Well, he did.
It's for its time. I can see, looking back at my younger self, this would have been a great piece amongst what.
I'm looking back at my younger self.
But the more that I've watched anime, the characters felt very archetypal and very predictable, if you will.
Which isn't that bad of a thing then nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So, Jason, looking back at your younger self, talking about looking back on your younger self.
He's a dang idiot.
We've entered a paradox.
What are your thoughts now on your now that you've rewatched it and you say you need to?
7 years later, 6 years later.
Okay, so interestingly, I don't remember how I felt about it at this point. So listening to myself describe it, I feel a bit betrayed. However, it's just, it wasn't as bad as I was describing it, or at least I don't feel it was. Like, and so a couple of points that I do agree with. It was super nostalgic trip, right? I am a little frustrated I didn't hit on the OP because the OP is awful.
I thought you said you liked the OP.
We'll get to it. We're going to do a thing on the OP.
They said it was a trip back to the 90s. And anyways.
How was that awful? 90s were the best time ever. You could just agree.
Anyways, the English dub shows its age, right? Because like obviously dubbing's got a lot better.
Yeah.
And I watched dub again because I prefer it that way. So the acting felt a bit stiff, absolutely. However, the story beats I feel like they felt better this time around than they did last time. And I liked, I guess I didn't pay as much attention of the motivations of Iria because they're pretty spelled out. Like I can remember back then I didn't pay too much attention to that, but like in this rewatching, like all of her decisions with the context of going like this is her brother, not a monster, really changed my perception of the story as a whole. So I have a better light of it than I did back then.
Okay, past them aren't ready for the heavy spoilers. What are you doing?
You're gonna blow their minds.
All right,
what have I done?
Here we go.
It's a one-way transmission.
Not unlikable, I will say that.
Yeah, I got a lot of the same. Whenever the protagonist and antagonist are having
well.
I felt
I'm agreeing with you. Clearly a pilot.
I felt like a really cool relationship. I thought there was a lot of original ideas in it. There were a couple moments in one whole episode that really fell flat for me. And Jeremy, I know you watched the movie, but not knowing the movie, I kind of felt like this was almost.
You watched the movie back then too?
And it did surprise me at the end that it wasn't.
I don't remember watching it. I thought I just saw clips.
At the same time, I felt like Iria deserved better than the story she got.
I think she deserved more.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you guys are saying, and the reason that
I'm gonna let you go in a second. I said that in our pre-show that Iria is the most interesting thing about this anime. Still holds up. She's a great character. I'd love following her on the 12-episode adventure.
Hell yeah.
Adventure.
Also, I need to point out, both of you in this short amount of time agreed with my assessment.
It was to placate you.
I'm just saying.
We didn't know what we were doing. We were young.
Yeah. You can't hold that. You can't hold us to that.
All right,
100%. This is going on my calendar.
Let's hear Jeremy.
That's why it was never aired.
I say that is in the context of what is presented today. But I don't think it's necessarily fair to compare it to today's because it was kind of a founding father, so to speak, due to the time that it came out. It established some of the archetypes, not necessarily
because like this is known
the one that provided
as an anime that all other anime are based off of.
But it was
absolutely
that established that archetype. So I agree. If you stand it up with today's anime, it certainly does not fit in, and it does have a lot of character tropes that you will see very strongly.
Well, and I can say, as someone who watched the English dub, that was emphasized even further. The dubbing was not as good as today's, and that definitely held it back too. So I was a little jealous of you guys when you both said you watched the sub, because I was like,
Jason watched the sub?
What? I watched the sub?
Oh, the dub is actually, I mean, I've seen both, and the dub it hurts. After watching subs, I mean, I recorded this show back when it came out on Sci-Fi at late night, and it was split up because they took the first 3 episodes, which were the first OVA, and then they took the second 3 episodes and they spread them by a week. I never knew that the second 3 episodes existed for like years. Yes. So for me, I had a VHS that I just had recorded that anime that had played that night, and I watched it over and over and over again. And Daddy, so I was like, this is amazing, but
I know, right? And I listened to the soundtrack on my Walkman.
At the conclusion of the 3rd episode, and everything had wrapped to that point, and it just didn't feel like a satisfying ending. But I loved everything that had happened up until then. And like you said, Jason, about the Star Warsy feel, it had this used future sort of. That's one of the tropes that they have, is it's a used future where everything feels like it comes out of a junk shop or a repair shop, and yet at the same time they've got like the sufficiently advanced bamboo technology where it's like you've got stuff that should not be so high tech because it looks like it's made out of clay or wood or some kind of plant fiber, and yet it's so advanced it doesn't make any sense.
I want to hear Jeremy's thoughts on establishing the archetypes of today. Yeah. You know, because there's Akira and Iria and Ninja Scroll. These are all hauled up at the same level.
It's a very well-known anime that established all these art. No, and I was cracking up when I saw old me saying that, because that's just I'm trying so hard to say it belongs in a category of, like, if you go watch, okay, I'm going to say this because I've recently been watching it, but like Armored Trooper Votoms or Demon City Shinjuku, or see, I got names. That's why I remembered them in the pre-show. I was like, I know I'm going to need these. But like, or Dragon's Heaven, right? Everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say that, right? You go watch old anime, you expect a certain thing, because you can't subvert something unless it's already been established. And so I do think that it shares the same archetypes and qualities with anime that were the founding fathers, were the foundation of it. But I do think I was also incorrect to say that it was one of them. I think it's more of a niche anime. It's listed, if you go into like myanimelist.net and you check out like lists of really good 90s anime, it's in there. And it's not a huge list, right? So it was noticed, but Armitage is also in there, which is also awesome. And there's a handful of others, Trigun's in there. But it's not one of the well-known ones.
I think for me, why it does hold value from its time, we just didn't have the volume of anime we have now. It's an entirely different universe of watching anime. You would like Jeremy, you would tape whatever was on the Sci-Fi Channel
and rewatch it
because that's all you got. I remember going to Blockbuster and they only had like 6 movies and you had to find the ones that were age appropriate. And everyone got to see Akira. Project Echo. I watched that on Sci-Fi Channel. Yeah, you watched what you could, and you just enjoyed whether it was good or bad. It was like, at least I'm getting to watch anime.
Yes,
this hardly exists anywhere, and now it's everywhere. It's on every major streaming platform. You have there's almost too much anime at this point, and so you can be like, hey, this isn't good. Why would I waste my time with this? That was not the mentality when
that
Iria
wasn't
came
an option.
out.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
All right, going forward.
But and then when I saw the second half, I was like, oh, wait, what? I didn't like the second half.
Wait, what?
Yeah, stop.
I still think that's true. It is still true.
Okay.
Now I have to say that the amount that I didn't like the second half is less than at that point in time. I actually like it more than I did then. It's not that bad. Like for me, Iria, spoiler alert. I mean, come on, favorite anime that I picked for a freaking pilot. It's a 5 for me. Okay, the whole anime. Of course, I'm gonna love it. I wouldn't pick it otherwise. But at the time, I remember thinking, "Wow, this is like a 3 for the second half." And now I would say it's more like a 4. And it could also be because I've watched the movies. I don't remember watching them before, but like all of the things that I would have criticized before, at least I remember, maybe. I don't remember it clearly. Maybe I remember criticizing them before. I think I have answers. I'll have rebuttals for myself. So we'll see. But it's still not as good as the first half.
All right, let's see what past Jeremy has to say.
He's wrong.
For the years, I've watched it 3 times. So for me, I think the value is just as much in nostalgia as it is in thinking of where it was at that time and how it stood up alongside of its peers when it was made. Yeah.
So let's go ahead and.
That's me saying, "Don't hurt my baby."
Of course.
Can I disagree with Jeremy?
No, you can't.
Good job, Troy.
No,
so proud of you.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the problems that I felt is it was either it was right in that middle ground where it needed to be either a full season, it needed to be 12 episodes, or it needed to be cut down into 2 hours. A couple problems. Iria was not given.
Wasn't it already 2 hours?
Because
That's
they tried
about
to fit
3.
so many
20, 40, 60,
characters,
20, 40, 60.
If you count the OP and stuff, there's a little bit more. And
Okay,
I know
so I'm
that's
just
not part of the
nitpicking.
story.
How far in spoiler territory are we?
Not far, because we are actually going to come back and finish our review once we've gone over the plot and the characters. So we can bring this up again and go into it a lot deeper. Let's start.
Is Jason getting ahead of the?
So hold up just a sec. I do need to say, I 100% disagree with that statement of past Jason. On this rewatch, I don't think it needed more or less time. I thought it was fine. I thought it did what it set out to do. So
Yeah, I want more in the world, and I want more stories about her. But this story, yeah, I agree with you, Jason.
I agree with past Jason.
Oh, you think it should have been longer, yeah?
So I agree a 12 episodes Iria series, not having to do with Zerim. Maybe he shows up once or twice, series finales and stuff. But yeah, just watching her be a bounty hunter with all her cool Batman tricks, all the tech, that would be great. I think this story could have been done in probably an hour, but let's go 90 minutes. I think
there was some filler that could have been cut.
Yeah, I think we can cut out K. I think
minutes I'm okay with.
I think we can make this a tight anime movie length story and be just fine.
But wait a minute, though, because you like repetition in stories. It establishes theme. It establishes, character motivations, things like that. K is the repetition of Iria and Gren. If you cut K out, you cut out one of the only repetitions in the show.
I mean, it's not like they were really going for anything there, but I mean, you're right, and I do get that. K is the next generation that is going to follow behind Iria and carry on this work.
But did we need that in I'm going after the monsters story?
But did we need K's best friend dying? Did we need to...
The whole shadow area being destroyed, that totally could have been done without getting to know the kids, getting to know their situation, making it all personal. You could have had that same impact of, hey, bad government, bad for letting them burn, without having to go through all of that, in my opinion.
You guys could be right. I could see a 12-episode series being a better way to introduce those characters and actually create more of a theme and an arc. And if you need those characters to be present and you need to have a theme, which I kind of don't, I like it for what it is. But if you need those things, I think I could see where 12 episodes would be more useful to have in that.
Because what they could have done is the the monster's about to attack, like say K, and then it just cuts to a flashback, and then we get like a whole flashback episode, and then the next episode we pick up.
That's what we all want. Hey, that's probably what you get in the 90s.
Oh, we're going back to the past.
Okay.
Iria. Let's get into Iria and do it right. Her name gets to be misspelled apparently on the title.
No, it's spelled correctly if you know it.
IRD.
Wow.
Got him.
She's a female bounty hunter. She's
Assistant.
Apprentice.
An assistant.
Apprentice.
And he evolves.
Spoiler.
She's wearing mostly.
Look at us, we're both like keeping you right on track.
Right?
In the armor
that hasn't changed.
That would have been helpful.
No.
Don't step out of line, Troy. They'll get you.
Fair enough. And, tons of gadgets and tech on this character. Probably more than any anime character I've seen in a long time. And then, like you said, she's when we meet her, she's just an assistant. She is learning this trade. So, without getting into too much specifics on her journey, because we will go through the plot, and what are your guys' thoughts on just her character?
I felt like I said at the beginning. I
always
felt
count on
her
Jason to go
character
first.
felt
I still do.
And I would have loved to see this anime stretched into either a full
Very
season
opinionated.
of 12 episodes, 24
No,
episodes.
you don't let us fall into silence. That's your like. You keep us on track more than I do, and I should.
Yeah.
You keep us moving.
She definitely sets one of those archetype tropes. She is very throughout the show and throughout her interactions with other characters. It for me.
That shirt's bothering me. I don't know what shirt that is.
Relationship type way.
That's the important part
these
of the
people are
podcast.
supposed to care about each other. The only ones that really I felt had a connection was her and Bob. They could have done so much more with her and the kid. I don't remember.
Okay.
I always do this. I never remember names.
It came around and was selfish, but like
Fujikuro.
What's that?
Fujikuro.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Her interaction with Fujikuro could have been so much better.
Don't blame that on Fujikuro.
No, he's awesome.
No, I like
Troy sipping for Fujikuro even back then.
I think he was one of my favorite characters.
Some things don't change.
Still do, yeah, 100%.
He was oddball. He was.
He has it
for himself, but then he develops as a character.
Yeah, he has his moment coming up. We're gonna cover Fujikuro.
Okay.
You know we're gonna go through characters, man.
I mean, I want to cover it now.
Stay on track, Jason.
Let's stick with Iria. For me, she.
Okay, no, Jason, your thoughts on Iria versus past Jason?
I kind of agree that I wish there was a little more character development and like interpersonal relationships. However, I realize at this point, not only do we have a tighter time schedule, but there's much more implied than I had noticed the first time watching. And similar to I'm complaining about Fujikuro's relationship with her. This time around, he has a much more like badass vision of himself than what he really is.
Yeah.
And because he wants to be that really strong bounty hunter, he what?
You're doing the same thing you did in the past.
Seriously, we're not talking about Fujikuro right now.
I love it. We're talking about Iria.
6 years, and you can't stay on the character you're supposed to talk about. I literally past Troy just said we'll get to him in a minute.
I just the trains run on time. Anyways. All right. So anyways, back to Iria.
Yeah.
I think she's again, I think her development is much more shown than it is said. And I think they actually did a pretty good job of showing those moments. Like when she goes back to her home, town or plot of land, when she, she has a clear violation of her space and property, yet she's kind enough to, be kind to those kids. And also, her strong-headedness isn't just for strong-headedness, but it's because of her love for her brother or for her desire for justice. And I think those are things that I may have missed in the past.
All right, going back to the past.
She was a cool character, and like I said, she deserves better than what she got in this story. Really, what you're saying. I would have loved an anime that's her adventures, and maybe the antagonist shows up from time to time as like a high point, but
yep.
Except for the one episode that kind of happens, it didn't really work out that well. But for the time, the art, I mean, there was a lot of the 90s of the cool, tough fighter chick, right? But she was confident, she was sexy, but not over-sexualized, which could easily happen.
There's a gratuitous shower scene.
There was one really good shower scene.
I feel like she's a character, and like, she deserves better. She could be one of the great characters.
I mean, we gotta have fan service, yeah.
I was watching it with Tanya, and I was like, it's not a very good shower scene. She needs to stand up. You have to stand up for a good shower scene.
Wait, no,
and then she stood up.
Yeah, okay. She did the full on, like, one leg forward, one leg back, posing with my chest to the camera. Yeah.
Yep.
Very, very 90s there. My thoughts on Iria now. Watching it this time, my only complaint about her is that I feel like they had her do her actualization twice. Like, her arc is, which isn't really an arc, because there's no, like, I don't want to fight my brother, and then I do. She doesn't know it's her brother all this time she's fighting it, realizes it's her brother, and then her thing is, okay, I'm gonna come forward and fight him. And that was a great moment when she shows up in the fifth episode for me, to fight him. And like, are you ready for me, brother? Like, yeah, okay. She's self-actualized. Then that fight ends. Go to the next episode. She's having nightmares about killing her brother and forcing him to become Zerim, and then has to go fight him again. And I'm like, we just did that. No, she got past that. And maybe because it didn't even really dwell on it.
Some things aren't passed in a moment. Some things you got to struggle with for a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Like a Jedi can still trouble with his anger.
No, Jedi are special.
Jedi are special.
Different rules.
Yep.
No, in the fight of 5, she still hesitated. She barely steeled her resolve to pull the trigger. Like, that's why she was having nightmares. She just went through a traumatic
You're right.
moment.
No, you're right. That moment is in that fight. I guess I just took that moment. Are you ready for me, brother? Like, okay, she's resolved. She's come to her conclusion. Cool. But you're right. She was still struggling.
I think that's like one of the things Jason really finds irritating later on. See, this stuck with me because you criticized my baby.
And I'll do it again.
No. When she uses the drill gun, and I remember you being like, "Why didn't she just shoot him?"
But do you want to wait till he? Do you want to wait till he does it to respond to it?
I'll do it again then.
Spoilers for our own show.
Yeah, spoiler warning for our own podcast. Honestly, I really liked Iria. I still think she would make a great famous character if she would given more, bigger anime, multiple seasons, multiple adventures.
I could totally see this like taking off if they gave her like season 1 of the Mandalorian treatment. Like, she's got an overarching thing, but like each episode is her like, doing bounty hunter stuff. That'd be super sweet.
A little cleanup on her dialogue. I think she could be up there with even Vash and Spike and like the anime characters. All right. Back to the past.
I think that in the short span of episodes that they had, and again, I definitely want to say I agree that they needed more episodes. I think that's probably one of the things that I thought the most about this series all the time that I've watched it is more. Should have been and should still be. But as far as with Iria, I do think that episode 2 has almost no purpose in the series. I mean, other than introducing Kay, except it gives Iria little bit of depth.
No, I completely disagree with that. I think episode 2 is very important because it establishes the communication with Gren. It establishes the necklace. It introduces Kei and Komimasa, but it also establishes like the place that they're going to. Did they revisit? The story revisits this just for a little while because it gets back the scientist, but it creates a point of reference for later storytelling. So, I mean, I guess you could cut it out and just have him crash land directly on mice, but your world becomes so much smaller if you do that. So for world building, I like it.
It also establishes how the government looks down at the lower class of the world and how they're just garbage should be thrown away.
Yep. And if Zerim wasn't there, they'd have to do it themselves.
Look at us growing as reviewers, huh? We have our own arc.
It only took 200 episodes.
That she otherwise did not have. Her interactions with Kay are actually something that gives a little insight into her childishness as well as her more sensitive natures and some possible theoretical history with Glenn, which I know theories come later. But there's moments where she's like, when Kay gives her a hug, where she's like, what's happening? Why am I doing this? How did I get in this situation? And yet she's actually okay with it. And there's other moments where you get the sense like she's letting Kay off the hook, and she keeps repeating this thing of, you're just surviving, I understand. And so you kind of get a sense that there's more of a backstory when you especially learn things later about her relationship with Gren, and you find out
just Gren. Just say Gren.
To be born. It was on mice.
Got to be technically accurate.
And
right.
And the situations revolving around just their.
Who established that, Jason?
We Jason. A lot of details, and so you have to fill that in, and that's kind of one of the things that I think a lot of the shows today, they give you so many details that there's not much left for you to fill in. And while it can arguably be a deficiency of the series to not give you enough details, there is a nice zone. I'm not saying they hit the right spot, but I'm saying that they got fairly close to it in my book, where I had plenty of room to still have a sandbox out of the anime and still be like, oh, I see this character. She's got this kind of personality. And then still have enough guiding points that I could draw between them. So I think she has, for me at least, I saw enough character where I was like, oh, she's just a kid. I mean, Kay's able to just whack this reader and be like, yeah, you didn't get me. And she's going to respond.
It happens. Don't worry about it.
Nothing's changed.
No.
Okay.
Right? But she does. She runs after him like a kid. She hasn't grown out of it. So there's little tiny bits of things, and I think it does develop a little throughout the episodes. But yes, could have used more. Like Madoka Magica. There's a series where you get a lot of development of character, but it's longer.
So
thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I still agree with what I was saying before. There's a lot of subtlety that you can read into things. Today, it depends on what anime you watch. There are anime that are subtle, absolutely. But there are also a lot of anime that are not. So it depends on what you're watching, whether you're going to be exposed to it or not. I thought there was enough. It was kind of nice to see those exchanges between her and Kay, and other characters. I thought it exposed who she was pretty clearly.
I sort of agree, but what I'm missing is I think the English dub was a little clumsy with it, and so I imagine that it's better than what I saw.
So I mentioned in this that I watched both the dub and the sub, but the dub that I watched was like, we're talking in the 90s.
Right. That's what you saw in Sci-Fi, right?
Yeah. And what I watched most recently with this sub, I do not remember the dialogue being exactly the way that I saw it. So I kind of think I may have found a different sub than what I watched at this time for the old episode, which is kind of interesting because I didn't know that there was more than one sub, if there even is. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I think it was, even in the sub, it felt a little bit more clumsy before. This was a pretty crisp sub.
Then we've talked a little bit about Gren. He's the big bro of the series and is not long for the series. Any special thoughts on Gren and how fabulous his hair was?
Nice edit, Troy.
It was awesome. It was awesome hair. I wish I had that much hair.
Hey,
I get it later.
His little banner.
Some I just missed. We didn't get Troy's thoughts on any of that. He just.
No, I went.
He went between us.
Yeah. I just went in the wrong spot.
We hadn't established our usual pattern yet.
Yeah. Also, I wouldn't talk about Gren now. He spent enough time in the series for us to waste time on him. We got Fujikuro and Bob and Kai to get to.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That gives Zerim away right at the. Yeah. There's that minor spoiler. Right.
Man. Go ahead.
But I'd like to talk about him more once we get into the plot, so I'm not going to say too much about him because unfortunately he's not much there.
Right.
It felt like this guy.
Jason made a good point.
Was important to the story.
He knew what he was talking about.
He's generic great hunter.
Yes. Exactly.
In tropes, they actually have a term for what happened there, which is hero killer. And
back
that's whenever you have the big baddie just come along and he needs a hero to crush, right? And so that's what Glenn was, is he was the hero that the hero killer crushed. And he filled the role pretty good, but I agree, without going too far into the plot. Yeah.
So
I kind of wish I looked up tropes more now. I miss them.
That was a really insightful information there.
Yeah.
We talked about Bob. He's the boss of this operation, and I mean, he's the plainest, most blankest character ever. He's really just there to push story along and be a sounding board for Iria when she wants to say stupid ideas out loud.
If you
I hadn't put a lot of thought into Bob for this viewing, and I don't have to disagree with past Troy. Especially when he's human, the voice acting is really bland. He's kind of blank, and then it was just like, hey, we need a way to get a cool AI without saying she alone has a cool AI, and Bob serves that function. As a character, he was kind of rough.
I would agree.
Well, the dub makes him so much worse.
Yeah,
the dub is really bad.
I went and I watched the movie, as you know, and which I
guess I did.
Know existed. Such a great fan of mine.
I remember you did. So
in the movie, Bob is already in the state he's in by episode 3.
I assume that.
Bob, from what I can tell, was retroed into a human for the series. Therefore, he would be a cutout cardboard character, and it does make sense then.
Right. So
they could have done a better job retroing it, though.
Movie? Okay.
So I actually didn't know. Did the live action movie come first?
Yes, the live action movie was in 1991, and then Zerim 2 live action and the OVA both came out in 94.
That makes sense.
I wish I remembered that. I had to actually go look that up again.
Are they based off a graphic novel or a manga?
No, as far as I know, they are original.
So someone looked at this movie and said, I need to make an anime.
Yes.
And from what I can tell,
Okay.
I need to make it better and more interesting.
Oh
Yeah,
my
right?
gosh, yes.
Remember when anime used to do like multimedia projects though? Like, hey, let's do an anime and a video game. I guess they still kind of do that. It just doesn't
I was
feel
about
like
to
it.
say, what do you mean? Remember when?
I'm looking .hack. I haven't seen. It's not like there's a Delicious in Dungeon game that came out the same time as the anime.
I know, right?
Have you heard of a franchise called Solo Leveling?
Yeah.
You're right.
There are multiple games that came out in the '90s for Iria, in the '90s. They're not terrible for their time, but they're not great
These
either.
are bad.
Yeah, they're pretty bad, but they're not terrible. But yeah, I just took a look again, and there's no manga or anything. This is it. It's original work.
I'm surprised you didn't play the games. You probably have, haven't you?
I have them. I just haven't played them.
Okay, fair enough. Back to the past.
Which shirt is that?
Yeah,
It's your yellow shirt.
As far as Bob, I'd like to talk more about him after we get into major spoilers.
Okay, and then
Quit putting stuff off. Just talk about the character. Man.
Only Fujikuro.
so the person who I am personally nominating for best character of 1994. Oh, I'm gonna draw that.
Uh-oh.
Fujikuro.
You got my vote.
Man, just
I love this guy.
Yeah,
Yep.
still.
He steals
Look
every
at the
scene
Matrix.
he's in. I have theories about him in the theory section when we get there.
Yep.
I do.
We had the theory section back then too. So
Yeah, that was a
I
have
actually
a
asked
section
Tanya,
for
I
it
said,
anymore.
what do you think, like favorite characters? And she's sitting there thinking about it, and I said, I love Fujikuro. He's my favorite character in it. And she goes, really? And then she thought about it, and after like 30 seconds, she's like, okay, yeah, he's the best. So yeah, it seems like a consensus, at least, the three of us and my wife, everybody that I know that's watched it, he's the best. Surprisingly, a little fact tidbit, in Zerim 2, there is also a Fujikuro, but he is a totally different character. He's just a minor thief that tries to steal from Iria, and then gets imprisoned by Bob. And he laughs maniacally all the time, and he's a total jackass, and that's it.
language.
A jerk.
I know, right?
How dare you?
He deserved it. He was horrible in the second movie.
Oh, I see. I start talking, you pause. That's
Hold on, I need to address something I said. I voted this guy best character of 1994. Forrest Gump, Shawshank Redemption, Pulp Fiction, The Lion King.
No, Fujikuro.
Oopsie.
maybe best anime character.
That could be.
That
Makes me wonder what anime came out in '94.
I'd feel more comfortable with that. We'll let Jason
I
talk.
think Fujikuro he's the epitome of what good storytelling is about. And the reason I say that is because we talked about Iria and how we wanted her to be this great character that we could fall in love with. That we would love to see the story built more upon it, like Troy was saying, where the main antagonist is a highlight, but not there very often, like a really long series. But in the short amount of time, because Fujikuro didn't have a ton of screen time, but because of the art directing and because of the storytelling specifically around him, we fell in love with that character because he had heart.
Did we though?
He had conflict.
We did, I guess.
It came to a point where he's always out for himself. He wants the money from the job. He's not going to do anything unless there's money being presented. But then it turns into this, I really like this character, but I still want to be paid to protect him.
Yes.
And he presents the he really presents
Jason, help yourself.
example of
Stand on his own 2 feet.
for a character a ton of screen time for. And I think if that particular attention to detail by the writers was given to at least 2 or 3 more characters, I'd put this anime like 2 or 3 notches above what it is.
Okay.
Past Jason taking L's left and right. I think I made some roundabout points about Fujikuro, but like, I think what's really great about him is, again, like I was trying to say, but Troy rudely interrupted me when I should have been talking about Iria. He presents himself as this machismo of a bounty hunter, and he tries to be like, you know, he's much bigger in his head than what his heart tells him to do. And I think they did a really good job of presenting that as a conflicted character. Like, I do care about my friends. I do want to make sure they're safe. And I think this action they're taking is really dumb. So I'm going to use this smoke screen of, hey, you better pay me or I'm not going to help you, to try and get them to back down. And I didn't see that obviously on the first viewing, but on this viewing, this is a really good guy. He tries to present himself as not so much, and he does some shady stuff here and there, but like the majority of the time he's a good guy. I mean, he even took Kay when he's like, no, I'm not going to take you. Fine, I'll take you.
Mm-hmm.
The reluctant.
Yeah,
nice
I think one of
guy.
my favorites. Yeah, I think one of my favorite scenes is when he's. Everything looks frozen. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you
I
still
can
good
see
for
Troy
us.
just fine. Yeah.
Okay. One of my favorite scenes is when he's sitting in on the fuel thing. I don't know what to call it really, but he used it to siphon fuel out of the land speeder, and he just keeps whacking her on the head because he's like, "Nope, you're dumb. Stop it. Nope, you're dumb." It's just so cute.
I think in retrospect, I saw the other character besides Iria with like the slightest amount of depth and just like latched onto it like a starving man getting a piece of bread.
Yeah.
I think he is the best character of the anime. 1994, that's a bold proclamation from someone who hasn't, not watching a lot of anime yet. So yeah, he's good for the series. He's shallow compared to, really complex characters that show up in much better stories.
Yeah.
But he's definitely still my favorite of Iria. I was excited every time he was on screen. I loved everything. Everything I said about him was correct. I like
To me, he was the Wolverine of this series.
Yes.
Wolverine.
I like that.
He started as a side character, and just because he's not that pure of heart, but he's still a good guy. He has a golden heart.
Didn't I already give my review?
Yeah. So
No, you jumped ahead a little.
Probably the most.
I swear I just heard myself talking about him before Jason.
Zerim,
It was in your head.
monster of our
You just
story.
like Fujikuro that much.
What'd you guys think of this monster?
Oh, we're going to the monster.
I love the character of Zerim and the sheer quantity.
One of the rare times I actually jump ahead. Cut Jason off.
You were excited.
That's the thing I love.
I
about
was.
Zerim. Now, as far as like art direction and things like that, I think it's pretty good. Interesting. I don't know. Every time I saw him on the screen, every time I would see what was going on, I wondered just how smart is it? What is it trying to do? Why is it here? And it felt like it was more than just a mindless beast attacking. It felt like it was actually thinking. Even from the very beginning, you got the sense that it was evaluating Gurren, and it was thinking, what am I going to do in this situation? It had already slaughtered the crew, right? But it was evaluating its situation, and as you see by the end of episode 1, it actually makes a preemptive move, so it knows strategy and tactics. So this thing is just, I think there's a lot to it, and I think it's a very interesting enemy because it seems like it's just a monster. But if it's really immortal, how long has it been alive, and how much information has it gleaned during all that time?
I wanted to love that.
Incorrect.
Monster.
Do we want to hear everyone's opinion and then we'll argue after?
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's let past Jason rebuttal too, and then you guys can rebuttal your rebuttals.
Yes.
No, yeah.
And I still kind of do. The art was fantastic. I've never seen another monster quite like it. The face tentacle thing was a little weird, but I think it presented some charm to it.
It's got charm.
Come on, you love tentacles.
And,
Charming tentacle face.
That's where all my thoughts are with this monster, right? Because there is so little information, which that's what makes a great monster, is filling in those gaps with your own imagination. Where I don't like it is this type of storytelling
Oh boy.
confuses your audience with the style and world building they did with this series. And what I mean by that is,
Please
if you're
elaborate.
going to have a monster that's wrapped in mystery, that you can't kill, and it goes on killing sprees with seemingly no restraint, that screams, I want to be a horror anime.
Yeah.
But I
Drake.
also want to be a fun space adventure anime. And it tried to be.
You're talking about two vibes, but you do this all the time. This is like your number one pet peeve.
How dare I
You
do too?
Tried to have to be a horror flick. And I
That's
think
consistent.
My chocolate and my peanut butter, man.
Especially if
Yeah,
they
just stacking up those L's. This is a terrible take.
Adventure part and focused on the action and the monster. As far as the character itself, I love it, but that's
Tone all over the place. Tone all over the place.
that particular
This
character is because it's wrapped in so much mystery, and you fear it as
I already made this point. Shut up.
as a viewer. There's no climax. There's no
God, this is my dad reiterating.
building suspension around it, because you do see it in its full glory in the very first episode, and you know exactly what it can and can't do.
No, you don't.
Let's not criticize our ramblings too much, because people have been listening to it for 6 years, and I don't want them to suddenly notice that is annoying that they don't show.
That's fair. All right, so a couple of things I definitely disagree with. I definitely don't.
Wait for Troy to give his.
Oh yeah.
Criticize all of it.
Yeah, let's listen to Troy.
Okay.
Iria is treated bad in this anime. Zerim is downright abused.
Wow.
When Jeremy said, "Hey, let's watch this anime," and I looked it up and I saw the monster, and I'm like, "Yeah, that. How is this monster not iconic?" The first thing I remembered about this thing is this monster, but he's not iconic. He doesn't. He's not Tetsuo from Akira. He should be. And from the first time we
He's
see
not
him, I
Sukuna.
got frustrated. They see him and they say, "Oh look,
Who's
it's a
Suka?
Zerim," or "Oh look, it's
Sukuna.
Zerim." And I'm like, wait,
Oh,
if
Suka.
this is the
Yeah.
horror of this anime. You know him? You've heard of him?
Yeah.
It's just general knowledge that
I
these
agree with
things
that.
are around. And I was fine with keeping the mystery about him. That's actually what makes him so cool. The white face and the black hat head. But they didn't act like there was mystery to him. The story presented that there was. What is his goal? What is he thinking? Nobody cared. Nobody. Even the doctor's like, oh look, he's got a butthole egg on the building. Oh well.
That whole last.
That's amazing.
You know what? Troy's 100% locked into here. Everything he said is correct. I agree with that. Your guys' thoughts?
I think past me wanted this to be a horror flick, because the monster exudes Jason or Freddy, or the dominating monster ever marching forward that's unstoppable. And they present him as immortal, and he's murdering vast amounts of people. I disagree that it can't be both. I think this is just an adventure flick with a monster. That's a dumb take. Anyways, I think they did Zerim bad, however, for a couple of reasons. One, I think this could have really benefited from some origin story as far as like how was Zerim created? Is it just an alien from a because they hint at that it's just that there's more Zerims coming, therefore maybe it's like a race of Zerims from another place or whatever. And then like the mystery wrapped in the this is like a secret government project, right? Like they give those vibes off from the first episode. I wish they would have run with that, because I think that would have been cool. Because then the bureaucrats and the government agencies, they knew about it, but they're trying to keep it hush hush. And then like the bounty hunters, they don't know what it is. And you're right, they should have been more mysterious to them. They didn't know what it does. And then I think Zerim, I do agree that they kind of released like who he was and what he was way too early. I think it could have benefited from like short half sightings of him here and there in the first 2 episodes, and then like the 3rd episode, like they see like aftermath of a bunch of junk, and then like 4th episode, here he is, he's coming to get you, kind of thing. I think it really could have benefited from something like that, because he is a cool monster. He is just, and that was the other thing I disagree with. As far as him knowing tactics and strategy and technology, they actually give a good reason for that, because Iria asks the doctor, like, hey, could he know how to use the teleporters because of consuming Gren? And I think as he consumes the cells of people, he's gaining knowledge. So he could be really young if that's the case, but he's just gaining a ton of knowledge and wisdom from his victims.
So there's something I could have sworn I talked about it in the past, so I didn't actually do the research this time to remember what he's called, but there is actually a particular, I don't know if he's some kind of vagrant or what he is, but when he wears the hat, and that's what they took inspiration for Zerim for. And so it's very
Ronin.
iconic because it's not just Ronin. There's a specific thing. I can't remember what it was.
Is it Yojimbo?
I'm not sure. I really could have sworn that I bring it up at some point in the podcast, but that's why it's really iconic. It goes into Japanese history, and I'm sure that we've all seen it somewhere and just didn't realize it. But anyways, it's a very cool design. I love the design. Having watched the movies and having them fresh in my mind, I guess, I wonder if I like sort of watched most of the movies, but not all of the movie. I bet that's what I did. But having watched the movies, and I sent you guys a snapshot of Zerim's smug face. Zerim has a smug face in the 2nd movie. And it is hysterical. But you get a very clear indication that Zerim is not just a thinking being, it's a clever being. And it knew she was out of ammunition. That's when it gives the smug face in the 2nd movie, where she's fired off her gun, and then it's like you get this zoom in on the, oh God, I wish I could just put it up here on the video because it is so good. But it does that because
only someone had the power of Ezadine.
Do it, Troy. Do it. Use this. I sent it in the chat. It's so good.
Way to do.
You didn't do it.
Oh, Troy, you failed us again. But honestly, this monster is heavily inspired by just Alien, really. In it being a grotesque body horror xenomorphic monster that comes from space. That is its sole purpose. It's the scary monster. And in the movies, it does the same thing that it does here. It shows up, it wreaks havoc. It doesn't have a reason. It doesn't have a goal. There's nothing deeper to it than just, hey, it's destroying everything it sees. It's absorbing biologic matter. When you see the creatures that it produces, which that was one of the things that I didn't like about the second half, was that you start seeing these other things, which they also call Zerim, and it's a little bit confusing at first. And then you're told, oh, they're clones. Well, in the movie, that's kind of a standard thing. It vomits them out of its little neck mouth thing and then throws those on the ground. There's a fantastic comedic moment in the first movie where it vomits one out after biting off a chunk of flesh from one of the guys. the humans, it vomits it out, squeezes the juices from its little egg thing onto the ground, and they become sort of a failed clone of one of the humans that's trapped in this zone thing. And there's a great exchange between it and Zerim where it's clear that they're communicating, and the failed clone is like, no, I can't do what you're trying to tell me to do. And Zerim gets mad and steps on it and crushes it to death. And the whole time the thing is like pooping out its mouth, literally. Stuff is coming out because it's a really bad clone. So when you see all these other clones show up and they're weird shapes and monsters and stuff, those are aliens. There are aliens in this universe, and they are civilized to one degree or another. In the movies, you see them show up, especially the second movie. You see them show up, and they've got like weird, elongated, broad, wide heads. And it makes me go, oh, that looks a lot like one of the monsters that I saw that was a clone in the show. Like, they're not just random genetic aberrations. These are failed or in some way cloned versions of existing alien species that he's spitting out. So I think Zerim's goal is really just to consume, get as much genetic material as it can. It's a monster, but it has some cleverness. And I do love the idea that's posited that maybe it actually pulls information from the genetics or even from the brain matter of what it consumes. That's never clearly established in the movie or anything, but I mean, it is a distinct possibility, and I like it. Zerim is one of the most iconic monsters for me. I love him. He's awesome.
He has a great silhouette. Gotta give him that. He has a great, like, I do agree he should be more iconic.
You should see, like, in the first movie, you really get an idea of what Zerim looks like. It is not just the flying head thing, but when they knock the flying head thing off, it flips upside down and it generates an entirely new body from it. And it's like this big spidery thing. And it starts like laughing as it's fighting them. It's like going as they're like pushing file cabinets and things like that on top of it to hold it down. And it's laughing as it whips them with its tail. Like it's fascinating. And they do stuff with it in the movies that they didn't do in the anime. There's also a good reason to believe, based on what happens in the movies, that even at the end of the anime, when she thinks she's killed Zerim, she hasn't really killed Zerim.
Can the head fly? The head can
Yes.
fly, right?
Yeah. The whole hat can fly. Yep.
Sure. All right. Let's go back to the past.
Half of the animes, 5 and 6, it felt 3/4 story through aliens.
Hey.
You have this monster that everyone's afraid of, but they all know it. Yeah. So, anyways, that's my only option.
I do have a couple things I want to say.
Already covered this, guys. Let's go.
Number one is, did you guys know that there's 4 different writers, and the episodes were divided up among
I
them?
didn't know that.
That I didn't know.
Now,
I didn't remember that.
importance to note here is that Zerim in 4 and 5 is most like the Zerim from the movies. Zerim in 1 and 3 is kind of least like him, because in the movies, right away he's making imperfect clones.
Hey, there we go.
Right away he's, attacking a world.
Okay, I guess
Right
we should
away,
wait
he's
for our
got this
rebuttals
larger
too.
telescope instead of this, more tactical, personal. I'm fighting in this limited area, and I'm not going to make any clones, which I don't understand why he didn't make any clones in that situation. But I have to attribute it to the writer. So in these different episodes, Zerim almost behaved a little bit like a different villain. And I thought that was really strange.
I like
didn't
1 through
notice it
3
until I
Zerim.
looked this up, and I was like, oh
More
my
than
God,
4
my
through 5,
favorite
4 through
episodes
6.
are 1 and 3. And I have a hard time with 4 and 5, but
So you prefer like the Terminator version of him versus the Xenomorph version of him?
Well,
Yeah.
we do need to get started with the plot here, and because I want to be able to
There's
take more
Troy
time
pushing
talking
us
about the
along.
episode than actually what happened in the episode. Hopefully,
We're a half hour in. We're only getting to the plot. Let's go.
Yep. So let's start with episode 1. We first meet
Oh no.
Iria on a mission she's not supposed to be on because she's an apprentice. Fujikuro steals her mark. She goes back home to Bro, to Gren, and Bob, and they leave on a mission almost immediately and are immediately attacked by a robot army that just comes out of nowhere. And Iria forces Fujikuro to take her along with him, and they chase after the army, and they all end up meeting at the transporter that's going to take them to their mission. Iria managed to get aboard with Bob and Gren. They get to the ship that they're going to rescue. They have a mission to rescue the crew and rescue the cargo. Most of the crew they find is dead. They find a few survivors, and the vice president of the government,
the corporation.
Of the corporation. And that's when they run into Zerim. Gren tries to fight him, appears to be successful, but moments later, Bob is attacked by the flying head.
There's a pretty fast recap.
Yeah.
I should get back to this.
We're skipping all the subtlety.
Yes.
I want to talk about like the robot army. I love the little robot legs that go.
Yeah.
They're cute.
Uh-huh. And like we were saying about the tanks before, some of the designs are just really, really cool. Also, there's a good reason like why Fujikuro is trying to run. He's not trying to help. He just wants to get their slot in the teleporter so that he can go take the mission away. That's it.
You guys think it was valid for him to steal Iria's bounty in the beginning?
Yeah. Just because she was an apprentice and therefore wasn't legally
right.
Legally, he was within his rights, but morally, I think it was kind of scummy.
Yeah, it was a jerk thing to do.
Classic Fujikuro.
Yeah.
Let's get back to this super fast recap.
And then the famous kick.
Yes, the famous kick. Actually, that came first, then the stomach gore. Yes.
Oh, right.
Iria manages to get Bob and the survivors into escape pod and send them away. Her and Gren go back to their ship. Gren decides to stay behind to blow up the ship and kill Zerim, and Iria flies away.
Jesus Christ. Episode 1's done.
Holy crap.
I missed all the spider tentacles.
Yeah, all the exchanges, like, don't let Bob die, take Bob back. The president saying, don't kill it. You got to bring it back.
So, quick question that I missed both then and now, or at least I think I did. When Gren puts him in the stasis field, does the stasis field cut off the hat?
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't remember seeing that.
Okay, so
I deliberately does it out of view.
I went back and rewatched it. You don't see the stasis field cover the head. The camera ends at his neck. So I think it's assumed that the head jumped off in time, not that it cut it off.
Okay, because we see the stasis field do that later, but
right.
Yeah, that was one cool thing about this monster is that it is the head. It's just that the body serves a purpose. So
yeah, there's it's really interesting. You know how there's when Zerim gets hit by the force field, it like cuts Zerim in half, right? But when other people are inside of the force field, there's plenty of room to move around, so it's not like it's solid inside. In the movie, they call it hardened rubber, and it's like crystal. If you get put into it, it puts you in a suspended animation, but the substance is a hardened rubber that you can't break out of. It's really weird. So there's a difference between the movie and the anime in the way that force field system works. And I kind of wonder if they did both, because when Zerim's trapped in it, you don't see the body move around to try and break free. It looks like it's stiff, like it's captured. So it seems like that's the hardened rubber version. Whereas when the humans are in it, even if it's the same one, like the staff is used later, it looks like hardened rubber when it cuts them in half, but they're inside of it moving around before.
Like it's a force field.
Yeah.
Honestly, now rewatching it, the first episode was my favorite. I think the Gren and Zerim fight was probably one of my highlights of the series. Them trying to figuring each other out as Gren's whipping out all these different things. Like, does this work? Does this work? I thought it was the highlight. I'm like, oh no, it's all down here.
Yep. If it would also have been like if he had a sword, Gren would have defeated Zerim. That's one of the things that cracks me up. Like, don't use bludgeoning weapons. Use a sword if you want to kill your enemy. But also, the movie makes it clear that Zerim and Iria both have shields. They're not just durable and resistant. They
like force field shields or
Yes.
like Link's Hyrulean crest shield.
No, force field shields. Their suits, like her suit exudes a shield, and that protects her. Same thing with Zerim. His body actually projects a force field. And that's why bullets, when people will shoot at him, you'll see explosions around him. They're being deflected by that shield.
Yeah, that's not in this. She literally takes a bullet at one point. She had a plant there, knowing she'd get hit there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no force fields in this.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's definitely force fields. It's just he breaks through them. In the movies, they get disabled. So they just let it be implicit.
Okay, I don't think they're there. I don't think
They're
the
totally
enemy ever implied
agree with
that they're
Troy.
there.
They're there. They're implied shields.
Would you say that if you hadn't watched the movies?
Yes. Because I
don't believe you.
I knew the movie was there. And
No, like just watching the anime, would you be like, oh, I bet that's a force field. That's what I'm getting from this.
No, you're probably right. I would take solace in my ignorant bliss and believe that there was no.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I can live with that. Going back to the past.
Obviously, there's a lot of little details in there that I skipped over, but
Yeah, you did.
so thoughts during episode 1.
Also,
we're gonna
really
we're gonna
quiet.
review
For
episodes.
me, it was a lot of confusion. And like
Maybe turn it up a little bit.
pointed
I can't hear
out,
him.
A lot
Yeah.
happened in the first episode. The first episode could have been stretched into 3. Absolutely.
They could have said what this robot army was.
But
They did.
They did.
They did.
yeah, well, quickly.
No, Past Jeremy
while they were
agrees.
in the sphere thing, but like
It was mentioned before that too.
yeah, but it was this,
Let them
like,
fight.
thing that could have not happened.
It was at the very beginning when we were distracted by her trying to get her first bounty. The television station was talking about the latest.
Oh,
news
give me a
about the
break.
Today Corporation and about what was going on at the time. I don't remember the exact words, but it was explaining very briefly. I think it even says Zerim. I could be wrong about it mentioning Zerim, but it does talk about the Today Corporation and everything. So you get a sense that there's some issues going on with Today, and they're a big corporation on this planet, and they are.
But aren't they the ones who hired them?
Yes.
But then
And
they
that's
attacked
why.
them.
And that's why when Bob's like, no, we got hired by them, and he's like, well, that's weird.
No,
That's where you're going, huh?
Because the company's at war with itself. They haven't
Yes.
fully agreed on how to handle this.
Exactly.
Okay.
and for me, that's what screams aliens. Like it was a near carbon copy of the franchise.
Yeah.
and,
Wayland Yutani.
The
in a 30
biological
minutes a
system.
second. You've got cargo's more important than people. You don't want to know what the cargo is. We're going to hire you to go get it. But then we're going to murder you after you successfully get it. And lo and behold, it's this dangerous entity from another planet that they're trying to use for X. I mean, it could have been Wayland Corporation for.
It's Wayland Yutani.
Yeah, so like I said, a lot happened.
Oh, now you're precise.
Okay, have we seen Prometheus?
Super cool.
I have.
I actually really liked the choreography of those particular scenes. What confused me though was, they did successfully freeze it, right? Like the little shields went up.
You're about to ask about the head.
My understanding
Yeah.
is that he did successfully freeze it, but when the body falls, we don't see the head, and the head managed to jump away before the shield closed down.
There we go.
Okay, so I missed that.
Yeah, in the movie, the head is actually frozen at a certain point by itself, and it still is capable of flying around well in the frozen sphere and breaking the control console to escape. So the head cannot be successfully frozen. But the anime doesn't convey that to you with anything other than that moment. So I understand the confusion. But yeah, the head is
I got it this time.
Zerim. The rest of the body, that's just a host. The head is the Zerim. Yeah.
I have a question about the Japanese, the subtitle version you guys watched. So in the English dub, when Iria, after her mark is taken away from the very beginning, she cuts free the two girls, and they run into the next room.
Yes. Hurry, I gotta go.
Okay, they did have to pee in Japanese too. Okay.
Yes. Hurry, I gotta go. Hurry up in there. Yeah. See, and that's one of the things, and not that in particular, but like you're bringing up something that was just like this tiny tidbit, but you caught it and you're like, yeah, this was ridiculous and funny. There's so many little things. Like if you watch what they do in episode 1, where Gren is looking over his equipment, he's choosing his equipment, that's all stuff that he then pulls out later, and you get to see how it's used. When Iria puts that radio transceiver thing around his neck, and I've heard people. I watched a bunch of reviews to get both good sides and bad sides from other people.
Rookie mistake.
A lot of them think that's just an amulet that he's wearing. It's like they missed that whole scene where Iria put it around his neck, but that was entirely there for safety purposes, so that he would always be able to communicate with her, and she gave it to him. Also, she picks up and she's playing with the little device that she uses, or that he winds up using one that's just like it to freeze Zerim's host, right? And so all of those little things that they don't talk about them, they just kind of show you, hey, this is used like this, or hey, look at this. You'll see it later. Okay. I loved that, but I didn't notice it the first time I watched it.
Yeah, my only other thought was just a really 80s horror movie vibe to this first episode on that ship. And like Jason said, Aliens cliche, it was carbon copy of Aliens, and it had that feel to it. And this is like the first time I felt they mistreated Zerim, in that it was like, oh, look, there's a Zerim. I guess we'll fight that. There was almost no build up to it. Like,
right.
Oh, look, there's the webbing of, dude, have you ever heard of a Zerim, Bob? Or something like that. Some kind of build up to him.
It would have been way better if he didn't even appear in the first episode at all.
Yeah.
They just saw the wreckage and saw the messes. But I would agree that that's where it would need to be. There, the echo's gone. That's
there I go with my echo.
Very spread out, so that you would get that sense of, oh, look, she's here in her place dealing with issues with Fujikuro and et cetera, and then in episode 2 or 3 encounter more depth on the karma and see Zerim. I was going to mention, you were talking about how it's just like he's slapped in your face. Look, it's Zerim, and we know everything about him.
Face.
It's a token attempt on their part, because it almost doesn't make sense. But Iria is always asking, like, why? What's Zerim? What? It's like Iria is supposed to represent the audience. And it's a horrible way to do it. I think it's a horrible way to do that. I agree. But I think they make up for his poor introduction later. But yeah, I do think it's a poor introduction.
Yeah, I think I'm reaching.
So let's go to the second.
I think I'm reaching there.
You're gonna be nice to us?
Yeah, I think I'm reaching. Well, no, I think I'm reaching in saying that Iria is asking questions about, like, oh, what is Zerim and whatnot. I don't think she really asked that many questions about what Zerim is. This anime was made after the first movie's success, as it is, as successful as it was, right? In quotes, exactly. And so it's maybe success in air quotes for like the Japanese audience, because I know that in some of the old reviews of it, it didn't do well over here. But I think it was made for fans. And so I think they were going to go into it with like, oh yeah, we just saw this cool movie about Zerim. We know what Zerim is. You don't need to give us any kind of suspense or build up or anything. Just show us the fight between Iria and Zerim. And I think that's a very different purpose in story and design and presentation than having like a standalone story that has no pre-existing reveals.
That makes sense. I still disagree with that decision, because even going back to Aliens, you don't just start with them willy-nilly right off the bat. There they are. You still build up to, wait, where are they? You know they're coming. You know there's going to be an alien. There's an S at the end of the title now. There's going to be more than one. They go into the nest. It builds anticipation. You know they're coming. This was still just like, hey, there he is, and it's everyone knows his name. There's no need to worry about questions or introductions.
Yeah. Yep, and I agree with you. not arbitrary. Objectively, that would be better. It would make for a better story. I just don't think it's what they were after.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, we've already introduced this. Everyone who's gonna watch this, this isn't Zerim's introduction. This is more just to feature him more.
Yeah, I mean, Zerim is like on the cover of both movies. Like, there's no hiding him.
Yeah. Jason, you have any thoughts on your thoughts?
Nah, it's just based and true, basically.
Woo!
Just kidding. No, I agree that the first episode was definitely had that vibe, and then I still agree with myself. I think if they had just not shown Zerim the first episode, I think it would have built that suspense a little better.
All right, let's go to that second episode, Troy.
Second episode, and we're gonna need to add in Kay's introduction here. So Iria, it's 3 days later. She ends up on this planet after flying away from the explosion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to correct the word flying away. She actually was pulled out by the atmospheric pressure, and the ship was kind of in autopilot.
Why, Troy? Why?
But she did pull out the crystal barrier, right?
Why do you entertain
She
this?
put it up because the atmosphere was moving, and yeah.
I don't want the audience to get the wrong idea that there was choices made.
And low on fuel, and while searching the town for
that's amazing.
Is attacked. Is that I don't know if that's the right word.
Now you're worried. Now you're like,
gang of children.
I'm nervous.
Steal her vehicle.
A gaggle of children.
It's a ship and a car, and I mean
they kind of refer to it as a shuttle in most things I've read.
So
that clarifies.
This is where we meet Kay, who is like the second in command of this gang of child thieves.
Pedantry. I love it.
And Iria chases
Kay
around.
We haven't taken that out of the podcast. That's still very much what we do.
Yes.
Slaps his butt. And she has
well,
to
it is fun, and it's funny.
Tries pulling
I think so.
Eventually catches up to him.
Actually.
And to take her to the administration building. That way she can go home and use the teleporter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the same time, this is when Zerim attacks this shanty town that this gang of children is from. And the officials are like, yeah, that's not a problem. That we were going to clear that out anyway. Which is kind of a cliche.
Laughing
but
so
Iria goes to fight the monster. Is helped by Kay, who uses the vehicle to run it over and push it away. Actually does quite good in the fight, surprisingly. I thought for episode 2 she was doing quite well for herself. And actually the sequence in here where she takes it to the administration building and then fights it again because they knocked it out and it wakes up, and she sends it away in one of the teleporters, which was one of the cooler sequences because she throws it into a teleporter, manages to pull the switch after fighting through it. Nothing happens. It's broken, and has to be told no, the other teleporter, and has to get the monster all the way over there and get that switch pulled, which was actually a really cool moment. Kay wants to go with her, and she's like, nah, that's fine.
Nah.
Your guys' thoughts on episode 2?
Episode 2 is kind of a weird one for me because parts of it I think are some of the weakest,
the first 3,
and then other parts I think, like you said, are the coolest. Like the transporter scene is cool. The situation where Zerim is, I love when Zerim
gave
gets
a
drugged
lot
behind the
more
shuttle.
thought to this.
That's just awesome. I think that's just awesome. But the moment where Iria is hearing Glenn's voice, and all it's saying is Iria, Iria, Iria. That's it. And then all of a sudden Bob's voice kicks in. And if you are watching, you may not notice that it changes, but it's shortly after that
maybe it's obvious in the dub. I don't know.
No,
transmission radio.
He's like, don't you
recognize next?
So I was like, no, I don't.
Is in the vehicle, in the shuttle, and so yes, that was Glenn. He was talking to Iria, which means he is coherent there, and I thought that was really cool. I also thought it was really cool that with Zerim being injured like that, the actual head got injured. It had that I-beam chunk through it. and the way it was fizzing and everything, the way that Zerim, it almost didn't just, it obviously didn't have a goal on this particular planet. It was just like her. It was sent out by the blast. So whatever trajectory that the blast sent, it just happened to be the same as hers. Now, as far as physics goes, that's absolutely ridiculous, but it's a story.
I don't know that it's that ridiculous.
So that's him
I think
being
it's reasonable.
beast at this point.
Jeremy thinks physics can be defined as long as the story is cool.
No. I think that he could have been at a different point next
right
to
away
the
and just
explosion,
shoot out his fingers or whatever.
Could have put it in the same
he
trajectory.
Actually slowly walks up, holding his head like a guy with a hangover, right? And then picks the guy up with his claws and kills him, right? And it's just that whole situation of seeing Zerim kind of stumble around, having trouble, and seeing the eye on the neck. Yeah, I loved those sequences, but I didn't like the sequences revolving around Kay and the child thieves. It just felt so out of place. And maybe it was doing something for Iria, but it felt out of place.
I like it now.
It was definitely the most character building for Iria out of the entire series, in my opinion. Because you got to see this hardened hunter experience some different emotions, like you said earlier, show more of the childish side, and also
she's an
more
orphan.
of more emotion. Because I think that's one of the issues with the.
At least that's implied.
She just doesn't show a lot of emotion. She shows blank face, I'm hunter, and rage, that's my brother, I want to kill it. In this episode, you get to see a wider range of emotions. I agree. It has some of the cooler sequences. The children feel out of place, not just in this episode, but the entire series. There was no need for them. And if they were cut, the other characters could have experienced more character building.
So expand on that, especially in regard to Kay, because we do need to talk about Kay a little bit.
All right, well, but I know we're not done, and we're gonna talk about Kay here. Jason, how do you feel about that, Steve?
It's fine. I don't know about. Kinda. Like, I think again, like I said before, I think if we had, like, we could show the big bad government being bad to the poor people without introducing all those children. I think Kay brings a particular nuance to the story and character building for Iria. But besides that, I don't know, just felt like a kind of shoveling them in to give sympathy to those people for the audience. And I think it could have been done better.
I think Kamimasa has some of the strongest dialogue as far as believability goes, where you see his exchanges with, like, the old man, you see his exchanges with Kay. The way he behaves is just very believable as a street urchin and fun. Like, he's funny to watch. These guys are definitely comedic relief. And based on, again, I got to go back to the movies. If this was based on the same tone and goal that the movies had, that's their purpose, is to bring in the silly element, because these movies are silly. The two humans that are in both of them, in movie 1 and movie 2, they are dorky, dweeby humans, and they are constantly joking and making faces and being silly. It's not overbearing, but it's not the tone that you would expect from, like, Alien or Terminator or Predator. That is not what those movies were. And so I don't think that's what they were trying to go for this anime either. I think they were trying to strike a balance of silliness plus scary suspense. And maybe that doesn't go well together or suit our tastes, but I don't know. I understand why they did it in that context, and I kind of like it.
Zerim only comes out at night, mostly.
You know, we've come across the child sidekick trope multiple times. I don't feel like we ever settle on how we feel about it.
Yeah.
And I still don't, like, you mentioned your pre-show. Kay is the cycle repeating of the next generation. She's important to Iria's growth, and she's taking what Gren gave to her and passing it on. It's all very important stuff. The rest of the kids,
There's even a moment where Iria says, "I wondered where you went, Gren. Now I know." And she was not talking about Zerim at the time. She was talking about herself because of her behavior and how she interacted with Kay.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's fine. It's fine. I don't agree.
Fine.
Hey, about the episode though, did anyone notice the animation was really different in this one?
No. The setting was different, but I didn't notice.
Iria felt shorter and a little more squatter, like almost slightly chimified version of her, where she's more lean and lanky in the other episodes. To me, I felt like someone else was doing the art for this one episode. It was still clearly the same character design, but just felt, like I said, a little more rounded.
Oh, you're thinking of that butt shot. I always liked that butt shot too.
No, but thank you for assuming that.
You said rounded,
Well, I meant cheeks, but not those ones.
Those cheeks.
All right, let's go back to the past.
So we're obviously going to talk about Kay more as the episodes go on, but do you remember Stargate? And
I don't remember Stargate.
They're on the planet. They've gone through the gate, and they meet that band
Great
of
movie.
like teenagers.
Yeah, he clearly means movie.
The
And
movie. Okay, I thought we were talking about like Atlantis or something. Jeez.
Right. SG-1.
The guy that plays the head army guy. He's
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Douglas.
Kurt Russell.
Oh.
Russell?
Bond with
Wrong Kurt.
that kid, right? It felt kind of like that, but Kay had too much screen time, if you will. Like there was I know she plays into the series further on, which again for me just didn't make sense.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
What shirt is that?
I understand he was hurt.
This shirt's your new Krillin.
Just took a fall from space to planet. Sarah was definitely not doing great. Yeah. But this monster that could have been iconic, this monster wrapped in mystery that is just taking all this fire and he just starts slaughtering everybody. She's able to throw a rope around and drag him to the administrative office. Like that was cool. But
it was cool.
It felt.
Mm-hmm. It played against the horror theme, like you had said. Is this guy scary, or is he someone we
Zerim was hurt.
Combat him?
Yeah. Thank you.
Spooky monster. That wasn't the theme.
As far as Zerim, I do have an explanation for why Zerim was so much more easy to subdue, even though Iria almost couldn't subdue him. But if you think about what happened, I mean, not only did Zerim fall, but having accepted a new host or taken a new host, we don't know how much Gren was actually fighting him. And the reason I say that is because of what happens in later episodes.
Yeah.
And so I think that there was active resistance in his own body that would have allowed her to do that. But I do think you're right that in the sense that it did make it look like he wasn't as threatening. But I think with more information as the series progressed, you can look back at that and go, oh, okay, well, this could be what was happening. Nothing explicitly says it is, but it is possible. In fact, I think it's plausible.
So there's two things in this episode I love. And the first was we got our first anime boob grab.
Most awkward one.
Yeah, there it is.
Later.
This one's actually for real. I noticed that Iria's weapon and how it clips to that shoulder clip that she has. And I love the practicalness of her gear. How many animes are there where the hero has his weapon on his back and it's like, how is that staying there? And this is one of the few times I've been like, oh, that makes sense. She has this chain. She unclips the chain. She pulls out her rifle. That was a nice attention to detail that I was surprised for, especially for the age of the anime, was in it.
That was awesome. I have something to throw at you for that. I also remembered the K thing I want to talk about. But as far as the weapons go, I think that as a general rule, the technology and the gadgets that they use, they strike me as both awesome and annoying. They're awesome because, like you say, the attention to detail is so great. And how cool is it that you have a gun that not only shoots as a gun, but also the barrel drops down and it's another gun? Or maybe you have a pistol that shoots as a pistol, or you can lift it up and shoot out the handle. I mean, and you've got all kinds of other weird stuff.
Where you're started on that gun.
This is cool, but at the same time, at the very same time, and with the same exact weapons, you can go, that is absolutely crap, ridiculous. What is this? This is stupid. And it's like it crosses over both of those borders at the same time.
I just like them this time.
Yeah, me too.
No,
They're
that's
just
really
cool.
that's stupid.
Yep.
And so I think, I think that's something that this series has as like a really strong presence. Did you know that rifle was not hers? That was Fujikuro's. She stole it from him in episode 1. She just took it away. It's the same one he used to shoot him to die.
You're right.
I didn't catch that the first time I saw it, but I was like, oh my god, the whole rest of the series, her iconic gun is stolen from the coolest guy ever.
So
I didn't even catch that this time.
Can you say your K thing quick?
Yeah, K thing quick is, I agree that had the children been removed, you would have had a lot more time for the other characters to develop. But looking at what they attempted to do with Kay, what I would theorize they were trying to do in this situation is they were trying to paint a picture of Iria's past. Iria and her relationship with Kay, which was being established through this episode,
that
kept tugging at something.
I was like, where am I going?
Where she kept trying to justify their actions as, well, you guys are surviving.
I like the real quick
you're
part
surviving.
too.
Almost speaking
Yeah,
from
I know.
experience.
10 minutes later.
At the same time, when she hugged, or when Kay hugged her,
He just
she
did.
let it happen,
Future
and she thought,
Jeremy just did that
how
10
is-
minutes ago.
how did I get in this situation? It takes me to the moment when I learned that Gren was not her brother.
Right.
That he is actually not her brother, which makes you wonder, well, how did they encounter each other? Why are they living together? And why did they think of each other as siblings? And so my brain put those different interactions together as, oh my gosh, Iria at some point was the equivalent of a street urchin or someone surviving somewhere. We know where she was born, but we don't know what transpired from the point of her birth to the point where Gren was teaching her how to shoot that gun in the flashback. And she was considerably older than Kay was during that flashback. So we don't really know. And I think that that's what they were trying to do. But that's just a theory in that regard. And it would justify why they tried to
anime
include Kay
theory.
to try and
Yeah.
give more depth to Iria, but it was
Get us in trouble.
it was very buried.
Some of the hate
if it's
will, like,
really true, and it's
froth
not just
over
something
onto
that
us.
they're making up out of connecting things that may not be connected, it's a really well hidden thing that I think that they could have made a little bit clearer. They could have given some flashbacks showing her in the situation, but that
And
would
if this is
require
really
more
quick, I don't
episodes.
want to see what
And
quick is.
which
I know, right?
I think that's why Kay was there, and that's
It's like a whole
why
episode of
Kay
me
came back.
rambling.
All right, let's go on to episode 3, and we're doing this one quick.
Somebody ate up all our time.
This is
Yeah.
the lowest point of this.
Do we have any thoughts on episode 2 before we go to episode 3? Anything to add to everything we just said?
No, I think what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with what I said. It's fine.
Don't need to rehash.
All right, so we get.
Wait, did you just blame me for something?
Iria gets home.
Probably.
I'm offended.
Precedent
was-
set.
Hey, it was deserved, as far as I'm concerned.
Whatever it was.
It always is.
Her house has been ransacked, and she makes a phone call and finds out, no, Bob's dead. He died in a car accident.
Oh,
And the VP is also dead. And it doesn't really add up, but before she can do anything about it, she's attacked, and Fujikuro shows up, saves the day, as always. And they're chased by tanks made of cupcakes, apparently.
Yes.
I love those tanks. The stupid, ridiculous tanks.
Look, that was harsh, but he has a point.
They end up having a crash. They try to fight the tanks, and it just ends up Fujikuro steals one, which works out quite well. They decide they're gonna go to the corporation and find this vice president who's supposed to be dead. And when they get there and security confronts them, a voice starts telling Iria what to do, where to go, and how to get through the building. She gets up to, she finds the vice president. He tries to bribe her and even tries to have her shot, and she just does a Batman on him. I think that's the best way to describe it. And then the voice has her goes to the top floor, and we find out that Bob is still kind of alive, but he's been turned into a computer.
She does a bad man.
Program. He's an AI.
He's trying to figure out his voice.
So she grabs Bob AI, and they teleport away. I hate this episode.
I do?
So you don't still hate this episode?
Before you guys get going, because this is a show about a hunter and a monster, and this government conspiracy is just filler, and it's totally irrelevant.
Hold on, let him cook.
Said, do a longer show and flesh out these characters, or do a movie and cut this part out.
Yeah.
It's unimportant.
Of course.
Nothing in this episode matters.
The one confusing thing for me, like, they just kind of glossed over, Bob's a computer now. Oh, okay. Like,
and he's fine with it. He's like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, no, you have no idea what it's like in here. It's like, what? Okay. And like you said in our previous conversations, Jeremy, that if you know that her suit has a personal shield, then a lot of the scenes make sense. Because, like, in her Batman scene, there are so many bullets coming out.
Yep.
There's no way she didn't get hit. And if she's
bad.
got a personal shield, that makes sense. She can take a couple hits. If not, because it's not explained. It's I guess she's not only Batman but the Flash as well. So, but
This was on my list, as worst moments. But go ahead.
so for me, because we're running short on time, summarize it. Yeah.
Are we though?
Like this could have been
Back in the day when we
hour,
cared about
15-minute
things.
segments, the entire episode cut into two and placed on the end of episode 2 and on the beginning of episode 4. Like it could have been backstory at that point.
I think we say we're running out of time just to
I agree, and the reason
stop
I say
ourselves
that is
continuing to
because
speak.
in the end,
Still do.
it just stopped there. There were too many little things in episode 3 that really bugged me. I mentioned before that it is 1 and 3 are a couple of the episodes that those are like my favorite episodes, but the reason is not because of the conspiracy at this point. For me, the reasons 1 and 3 are my favorite episodes is because of the action, the way that the characters interacted in them. I mean, Fujikuro didn't just show up for no reason. He showed up because at the very beginning of episode 3, he's trying to tell her, no, I'm hired to protect you. I'm here. So he goes to where he knows she's going to be. And so it does make sense why he shows up at that moment and tells her you're being attacked. But I hated the scene where he's running from the cupcake tanks. I hated that. I hated the scene where
Cupcake tanks.
I got you sold with the cupcake tanks.
are
You did.
shooting at her while she's suspended and they're missing and everything, and the robots are climbing the building and missing. I hated the fact that she could just throw that outfit into the tank's intake, and that was enough to wipe out whatever type of, plasma or futuristic device was causing it to inflate. That was really. I mean, I could see that the reason they used the design was because they wanted it to match the robots, obviously, as far as like the hair, but it was stupid.
I like that it was unique. I gave it points. Like it's different.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really stupid.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's almost childish in its presentation that way, where it's like you want them to match, but you don't see how silly that makes it look. I don't know if that's what was going on. But as far as the conspiracy goes, I didn't mind the conspiracy. And the reason I say that is because it's been going since the very first conversation, the first words spoken in episode 1. We're talking about Tenentipide and the issues that were taking place within that corporation that was on that news.
But it also drops here.
But it does, and that's where it ends. It completely stops.
So we're gonna go to episode 4. But
So apparently, edited
That's
Troy
like
is
a
like,
cut.
yeah. Troy, when he edits, doesn't like to lose arguments. All right.
Nice.
That's nice.
I mean, I still feel, again, the thing could be cut shorter. I feel cutting the conspiracy would probably work, but it also, because of the alien thing, Weyland Yutani, it also has a place. Humans are the real villains.
Right. And I think the conspiracy was a good idea. I think it was just executed poorly because, like you said, everyone seems to know what a Zerim is and how dangerous they are. But if no one knew what a Zerim was and how dangerous they were, and we find out about the government conspiracy along with this new alien that we don't like, it's murdering people we don't know much about, that would have been neat. But they didn't do that. So
I like the cartoonish designs. Whatever I may have said before, and I actually don't mind some of the technical flaws.
I also kind of liked some of the action this time around.
Yeah,
I thought the scaling the big tall tower was a cool sequence. I do agree with past Jeremy that some of the shots and stuff, or like shooting everybody, was a little weird. But I don't know. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, but can you imagine if Batman had the Speed Force?
Right.
Oh my God.
I'm sure it's been done. Tanks.
Actually, it has the evil Batman.
Does he have Speed Force?
Laughing Batman. He had like a group of evil Batman with him. One of them had the Speed Force.
Can we stay on topic?
I want to come back to the cupcake tanks. That thought didn't hit me at all this time. As a matter of fact, between the silly robot spinning legs and the cupcake tanks, I was like, whimsical.
It's cool.
I just appreciated the different take on futuristic weaponry. It's very inventive.
Yeah. And it almost kind of made sense of like, hey, we have these death machines, but don't make them look scary to the general public. So, make these giant puffballs rolling down to blast people to death.
Put tassels on them.
Yeah. Let the little robot legs go. Wee.
But some of them were robotic stuff, and like Iria's suit felt very, because of the design, like the era, it felt very Robotech. Some of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Episode 4, I guess.
One last thing about this episode.
No, I wasn't done.
Robot with a headache. Forget this episode.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't like that? Come on.
I don't even remember that from this time. What?
Do you remember when Fujikuro throws in the device and then it's emitting a frequency that messes up the robots, and so the robot gets out and he's like holding his head as he falls off the tank? But it was great.
Wow, I feel like that's me channeling future Jeremy.
Yeah. I find a way to justify it now.
Yeah, I didn't. I just went right on by.
Nope.
Yeah, that was. But you see, that's where I think, like, for me, Bob theories originate at this point, because again, this is the point where Bob becomes what he is in the movies. So I think this was to get him.
Stop
to
referencing the movies. This is an anime review.
No, movies.
But in the end, it has to be an
consume
alternate
all of the media
story.
to understand the
it
anime.
It can't be a prequel. They just don't mesh. But yeah.
All right,
Go on.
let's go.
I think this just to
Let him move on, people.
there were episode 3 presented like 4 or 5 really cool ideas that were dropped. That's the problem.
Episode 4. So this is
You're like, I'm
basically
done. Cut.
when we really start getting into the final thing, and we're also introduced to Dr. Tokada in this episode.
Takao, something like that.
I don't even know.
Yeah, I think it's a
Tipatate?
He's a Zerim expert.
Dr.
So
Tatas.
Whoa.
Iria becomes a full-fledged hunter, and at the same time, the town where those kid gang is being finally being kicked out, since Zerim didn't kill enough of them apparently. They decide to go to Iria's planet and sneak aboard a ship. And ends up being
it just
this
sounds like you're saying
ship,
idiot.
which then
Go
gets
to Idiot's
hijacked.
planet.
So
Go
the
see
ship's a
Idiot.
Big deal.
What's
Yeah.
idiot?
Thanks,
They
Jason.
take the ship to the planet Mice,
I'm not
which is
talking.
where Iria lives.
You're the one who
Same
insisted
time,
on that
Bob
pronunciation.
hires Iria to go rescue.
It's
this
not my
doctor.
fault you
At the
can't
same time,
pronounce
Kay
Japanese
and his
characters.
buddy are sneaking around this warehouse, and they find the doctor and start freeing him. When Iria attacks these people through the teleporter, which was
I hear
actually
that
pretty
every
cool.
time now.
I know, right?
Turns out the
it's so funny that we just stopped caring about stuff like that.
Are already dead,
Yes.
and something's going on here. She crosses over and she sees her big bro. She sees Gren, finds the doctor, finds the kids. They have a Zerim tracker, which exists now. And
It always existed. It was the doctors.
And then clone Gren shows up. And
I knew it was just thrown into the story.
She manages to fight it off enough for them to escape the building, but it continues to chase them, and they fight it again. And while trying to escape, like up a mountain, the clone Gren attacks, and this kid who's never even met Iria jumps in front and takes the final blow, saving Iria and allowing her to shoot a rocket launcher into the clone's face and killing it. And then everyone else decides to go get a snack. Okay, to be fair, I'm being a little bit harsh on the ending, though.
Am I?
So yeah,
Right.
I was touched at the death scene more than I thought I would be.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it's the death scene.
When Gren died,
Really?
nothing. This character, and just in the way they dealt with him while he's laying on the ground dead, I didn't care about this character until this moment, but that did make me care a little bit.
Not me.
Even now?
For me,
Not this time.
I wanted to wait till
I
we got
hated
to
Call
this
me
point.
Masa.
This character exemplifies the writing style for character building throughout this entire thing. When
Perfect.
that sharp tendril knife, like, was he Carnage? I don't know. Anyways, when it went through the kid, there was literally like no feeling. Like it was like, oh,
It's our fourth
like,
comic.
he's dead now.
Yeah.
And you're right. When they were all surrounding him,
Past
he was
Jason
doing
is
his
super
final,
right.
like death goodbye. That was touching. They did a good job with that scene.
Super correct.
But like up until past, like he gets stabbed, like.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with that.
Yeah, see?
That
Komimasa's
Troy agrees.
loss for me
You guys can both be wrong.
vibrated or resonated more with Kay than it did with Iria. In the sense that like I saw enough camaraderie between Kay and Komimasa so that I could imagine how Kay felt when Komimasa died. And so it did resonate with me, but then at the same time, Glenn's death also resonated with me because I saw enough of a relationship between them. So it could be that my threshold
You're
is
biased.
considerably lower.
I am. I'm so biased. You guys have no idea.
Witnessing character
And I think
conversations and relationships.
anyone listening to this can tell that you've picked out a lot of these details and have gone deeper into this.
This sounds
world
like you
and
saying I'm
probably
biased biased
why you're a
too.
little more attached.
Oh, I hear the music and I still am like.
Also, that's a strong
Up
assumption
until
that anyone
the-
would watch this.
laying on the ground death scene, I was like,
Probably.
that was weird that he would do that. However, I'll give this moment credit from a writing standpoint. At this moment, it was like the anime decided, hey, Kay's not safe. Just so you guys know, Kay could die too. We're willing to kill kids.
That's an interesting way to put it, but yeah.
But that's a stigma in shows.
Oh, don't worry. I'll do
Usually
that
you
many
see
more
a
times.
character like Kay, I'm like, the main character will die before this kid dies. And at that moment, that rule's gone because we don't care that he's 10. This is a monster. He's killing things.
I think that I have to disagree a little bit with there being no presentation ahead of time on why Komimasa would do what he did. If you go back to episode 2, you see that Komimasa stops to protect Sarah, the little girl that's crying, and Kay, because the little girl falls down. And Komimasa starts throwing rocks at Zerim.
But they were part of a group that were living together.
That's a really
They had a close
brave,
relationship.
brash, stupid.
Yeah, but if Iria couldn't
but
save him, I don't think
incredibly
they were
loyal
getting
thing
away.
to do. And so
Yeah, but he met
I think that they
Iria
gave
like
a
for like
little
5
tiny bit of
minutes.
foreshadowing
Let
that
him
this is the kind
talk.
of person
Kay was
Komimasa
there.
is. And so since Kay is obviously still
Take your time.
his pack,
He's burning
and
whatever
right
he's
now
cooking.
Iria is the best way out of this situation. He may have just come to that conclusion in his mind. The only way to solve this would be to get that bazooka that he was playing with earlier and give it to Iria.
Okay, so and that's actually really fair. That's a good
Whatever.
real quick, Doctor. What I
Just trying to move them along.
I know you're like
Doctor here.
whoever spoke last. I agree with you.
Mr. Cavill, we all know who he is.
You gotta go.
Does he even have a point
No, I hate him. He is the one character that I'm like,
I hate him.
He showed up.
I actually like him now. He's
okay,
fine.
This
He's
is
like an
where they're
annoying
gonna
old
learn-
man.
This is how they learn the weakness. This is, that's what they're setting up. This is I've studied, and I'll give you that super bit of info you need. And later, that doesn't happen. And I'm like,
That's
wait,
true.
So why bother?
He admits that he doesn't know anything about it, but he has a Zerim tracker.
He has a
But he's been
Zerim
studying
tracker.
this thing for years, but he doesn't know what it does. But he's got all these tiny, like, where did he get all these samples, right? Where
I think
did he
these were the
get all
samples
this
they gathered.
information? And who does he work for? Like, this character was one of the ones that pissed me off because he had so much potential.
I wonder if his
I
name
don't
is
Not mad anymore.
And again,
So
this
potential can
episode
have his own
suffers
series.
from what episode 1 and 2 suffer from. They present really great ideas. Not only do they not execute them well, but they fall flat and they're not explored further. You had a brilliant setup with the horror factor of her finding that.
Yeah, I
crew
just wanted this
of
to be a horror
dangerous
anime.
guy that had murdered like 50 police officers. They are dead, and there is no
That's what murder means,
rhyme or
Jason.
reason.
He's
can't-
doing fine.
Obviously you assume it's
All right,
but
I'll let
then
him
you find out it's just one of his clones. Like that is interesting storytelling. That is just thrown into the air.
One thing I gotta say, you guys clearly don't edit these videos and hear ourselves over and over again. This is very familiar territory for me.
Nope.
I think
There was a
it's
little
actually
while
really
I was
interesting.
listening to the videos, and then I made a conscious decision not to, so that I didn't influence the way I spoke or
Yeah,
behaved.
that's probably better. It can be tough when I'm editing to be like, oh, okay, I gotta quit umming so much.
Right?
All
Yeah.
that stuff. That one's for free. Let's go.
When you look at that doctor in particular, there's a lot of tidbits that are told to you ahead of time throughout the previous episodes about how there were experiments done in the past and how there were laws made about no more experimenting on Zerim, leave him alone. And so the only conclusion that I could draw was that he was a part of some previous experiments, or that he studied the results of those experiments and maybe had samples that were handed down through those experiments. But again, like you say, that's something where they could have embellished more. They could have given us more. I agree with that. But I do think that they gave us enough to where if you are really devoted to finding out and trying to force
You can make it work.
together of the puzzle, you can cram those jigsaw puzzle pieces together, bend a few edges, maybe break a piece off. You can get it to work. But yes, I
Nice
think
metaphor.
that the
Yeah.
reason I said that I really dislike him as a character is because he didn't serve to accelerate anything. I would call him a MacGuffin, but he didn't really move the plot forward. He kind of disappeared at the end of the time when you see him. I'm going, what happened to your samples? They were obviously resonating and pulsing. What happened to you, to this? I mean, you met with these people. I think that's in the next episode, but like he's the same thing as Putabaya, the vice president, where it's like there could have been more. There could have been further interactions. The plot lines could have interwoven again, and they could have touched again, but those characters just completely disappeared. And not to mention the fact that he was a grumpy old jerk. And so that also made
I like
it really annoying, because I was like, you're not contributing anything and you're a jerk. So, yeah. But
Untie me, you stupid kids.
Let's go to episode
Right?
5.
All right, lots to unpack there. Let's go first.
Is there, though?
Kind of. Yeah, well, I mean,
Oh, but-
now I can recognize an exposition dump, but he kind of had a point that a lot of the exposition didn't matter.
This character was written poorly. I don't have as much vitriol for him as I did back then.
Yeah.
But like, I actually saw this character as a potential like twist, if you will, or like I had mentioned in the past, someone to provide hey, I'm the expert on Zerim, or I helped develop Zerim, because even up to this point, we still actually at the end of the season, I don't think we ever find out where Zerim comes from. So yeah, but I kind of liked him yelling at the kids.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah, me too. The only thing I can say for Zerim is that there's two theories that come out. In the movies, they say that it's a biological weapon created by aliens millennia ago. And then in the anime, they say that it's an alien. So are they mutually exclusive? I don't know. They could be the same thing and just...
And at the end, they talk about a gaggle of Zerims on their way.
Gaggle.
So.
You know, with the faces the way they are, I could totally see them laughing and giggling all the way.
Maybe a murder of Zerims.
That would be better. Yep. Yeah. Otherwise, everything sounded good. I didn't have any complaints.
The only thing they touched on is there's laws about you don't mess with Zerim.
That one got me too.
That bugs me because again, that's more of a Godzilla monster. We know he's just he's a force of nature. We can't deal with him, so we just react. You know, we build shelters. Our technology is designed just to build teleporters to send them away. And yet you still have so many people who are like not know what's going on. Again, they're trying to straddle the line between mysterious xenomorphs and well-known Godzilla, and I feel like they didn't find the right balance, or they just needed to pick a side.
Well, it seems like there was some kind of atrocity or accident that happened in the past during the study of Zerim, in which case they must have decided that they didn't have technology sufficient to defeat him, just get him out of there. So, like, what do you do with Godzilla, right? How do you defend? You can't defend, but maybe build inland. What's that?
Right.
Ghidorah.
Ghidorah. Yeah, right, exactly. But, I mean, and then you have a faction. So, like, if the major government says we can't do anything except teleport him away, we can't beat him, you have a faction within the government that says, yeah, well, we're going to secretly study him, or a corporation that takes it upon themselves to do it. So you kind of have what you're asking for. You have the complexity of, you know, the law is ignore it and it will get better. And then corporations disagree. Big enough entities disagree that they take it upon themselves to go and try to find some way to defeat him. A bad decision, perhaps, from the government. But if they have teleporters, I don't understand why they don't teleport him into the sun. That's probably my biggest complaint. Or at least put him in a gravity well he can't get out of.
It's the reactions to me. It's hey, they're the hunters. It's Zerim, that thing that's so powerful. It's literally the law that not to touch it. I'm gonna fight it.
Well, you know, they did say that thing's not real. Like, the hunters talk about it. Fujikuro and others talked about it like it wasn't real.
Right, but I get you're saying, like, the government knows, the hunters heard rumors, and the general population doesn't. I just feel like that much separate information. If everyone in the government, if the low-level mayor of Shantytown knows, the people are gonna know. It's.
Well, maybe he used to work with Q Clearance and then got reassigned there after.
We're going.
Because a lot of this, like what you just described, kind of starts happening as we get to the end. So we'll cover some more of it here. Episode 5, we find Iria back at her former home, and a Zerim monster attacks her there, and she kills it. And she's obviously there thinking about Gren, because she's seen the Gren clone and is coming to the realization what the body of the monster is. Mm-hmm. We see Zerim kill some guards in the city, and he starts assimilating, and we find out he needs to assimilate to survive. This is how he eats.
That's a theory.
So Iria then goes back to the city.
We're not in the theory section.
Spies on the doctor, and the government's like, yeah, this is fine. We'll just beam it away. We have the teleporter thing. We're fine. And he's like, yeah, that's not going to work. I think it's teleporting where it wants to go. It's like it knows how to do that. Iria talks to the doctor, and while she's talking to the doctor and learning about this, Zerim starts calling out, and so Iria runs away. I thought she was running to it, but then she goes back to the farm, back to where she used to live. And so then we're left with Kei and Fujikuro, wondering where she went.
Soul searching.
Yeah. I'm very frustrated with this part. Okay, so this is also the part where Fujikuro.
I was also very frustrated with this part.
Spoilers.
I was just about to ask.
Right.
Not this much,
Jason, did you know at this point
that Kay was a girl? No,
Yeah.
and the problem is nor did I care.
but
Like I said, the character was there to serve a particular purpose in trying to storytell for
Jason
Iria.
hates kids.
And
Listen,
the only thing I got out of that scene is that
I can
Fujikura
justify this.
is a creep. Like, because he says,
I can smell it.
I can always smell girls. It's like,
Oh my god. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
That was weird.
like, okay, like if you had said like, oh, you know, I always have an intuition of when a female's around. Okay, fine. Yeah, a little creepy, but whatever. But like he uses the word smell. Like, I know this little girl is a girl. It's like, oh, you are gross.
So another important scene that happens is
Yeah, we need to touch on that.
So our favorite character is kind of gross sometimes.
Yeah.
I want to take it as him just saying, you know, I sense it, but he chose to use smell as the word for sense because it's funny. Come on.
So I remembered this time. So as soon as she came on screen, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's a little girl." And then I was like, "Oh, it's totally obvious. They got the big pointed eyes, the longer eyelashes.
Mhm.
Like they weren't hiding it. I should have figured it out."
Yep.
All right.
Zerim lays an egg, which opens up to look like a butthole. I in my notes repeatedly referred to it as the butthole egg.
That's awesome.
And then at the same time, Fujikuro is hired by Bob again to go find Iria, and then the army starts attacking Zerim and the monsters, and they're useless against him. They find the flamethrowers are pretty good, and then Zerim shows up with Gren's weapon and just starts blasting everything. Kay and Fujikuro are there because they figure, hey, wherever the monsters is, Iria will show up, right? But that's when Fujikuro realizes, okay, this is actually Gren inside his body.
That was pretty cool.
And the army mostly just gets wiped out. Iria does arrive, fights Zerim, and loses pretty badly. And just before she is bit, Gren manages to take back over control, stops her from being bitten, and then begs to be shot. She fires a missile into his face, and then she feeds a grenade to Zerim's mouth, which he swallows.
No, it doesn't.
No, it
And
drops it.
explodes, sending her flying, and then she is caught by Fujikuro. That grenade.
I had to question it watching it. The edit's weird in the anime. It's a jump, almost like a jump cut. But yeah, it does show the grenade drop and roll behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But for a second I was like, oh, it swallowed it. Oh no, it's showing it dropped.
Is going to come into.
Follow? Or I thought he spit it out. I thought when the head retracted, it like spit it
Yeah,
out.
it shows it clearly in the sub.
It was very fast scene. I thought he swallowed it. It would make a lot
I
more
need
sense
to go
if
back
he.
and look.
If you already know,
Do you
then
notice?
it's obvious.
No, it was
Yeah.
very fast. When that whole sequence was happening, I was trying to figure out, did she fire that missile in time to kill Gren or not? Like
Right.
I was fighting back and forth if she had killed him or not.
I assume she killed him only because it felt like she got over that hurdle, right? So I was basing it on that.
Troy.
That she wasn't tore up about killing Gren after this point. So I assumed that he must have died.
See, I always got
Did I
the
do the same
impression
thing
that she
twice?
failed and that
Yeah.
she felt guilty because she failed because she wasn't able to take
Consistency.
the shot in time.
Yeah.
That would make sense based on a couple scenes now that I think about it. So
Oh no!
I guess I'm going to agree with you guys. And
Got him.
I had a big
Yeah.
problem with this episode.
It's seen it twice.
Because they had this really cool idea drop where he's eating people, Zerim's eating people, and the news talks about disappearances. That was a neat setup. If he requires organic, so Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's assumed that he requires organic material to create his clones, right?
Yes.
Okay. He has a literal butt-ton army. Like, there is so many clones.
How to get away with that being tracked down?
Not just that, but where did he get all that organic material? Like, the building was he on that he was on top of? Was he just omnoming every single person in there? And if so, why did the government take this long to get to this building? There's a lot of inconsistencies with this episode that I didn't like, but what forgives it a bit is there are some really cool action scenes.
Yeah.
Again, beginning of the episode, the setups, they were really cool ideals, but again, they're just dropped for these really cool action sequences. I like the idea of them having to get in position these big transporter things in order to try and deal with this threat.
That's the next time, right?
One of the things that confused me is Gwen's big
I thought that was on episode 6.
Is this near world destroyer cannon?
Maybe it is.
Like this thing just
I don't have notes now.
In just like in this huge beam of in any universe that's ever been built, weapons like that in societies like that are outlawed. There is no way Gren owned that weapon legally.
Yes.
With every inconsistency in the story, is that one worth it?
Well, I actually can give you the background for that one.
That is not a hill worth dying on, by the way.
Very quick. The sense that I get is that this is.
Oh no, this is very quick. Here we go.
Universe,
just edited it.
And that, as you say, certain weapons have permit requirements, but being hunters, if you recall the news bulletin where they were saying, "All hunters help, hunters help." So hunters are actually a recognized organization that has rights enough to bring them into the fore to help alongside the world's military.
It's an SDM weapon.
SDM?
Yeah.
But is that
doesn't explain why
Helldivers?
Iria needed to go back to her
Rift.
stupid house 2 times in the same episode when it did nothing.
Right.
Oh, that. Yeah, I was just thinking about the Burb Den or whatever.
True, Troy.
The line.
What was the
waiting
criticism?
for you, big brother?
She goes back to her hometown twice in the same episode.
Why she went back? Well, I mean, she went back because
I know why. It's dumb for the story to do that.
Yeah, it's just a waste of time.
She's running back and forth like, oh, I'm gonna go here, now I'm gonna come back, now I'm gonna go back there, and then I'm gonna come back.
I don't know. I mean,
especially
they do that sometimes. Stories do that.
They needed her to be gone so that Zerim could start a rampage. So they sent her away to her home, back again to her hometown, where she's like, I'm gonna wait for Zerim here. He's not coming. He doesn't care. He's doing his own thing. He starts a rampage. She leaves. Again, there's character motivation to make those decisions, but you're spinning your wheels in your storytelling. Let's go. Just have Zerim start a rampage, and she's late showing up. But you got to have Fujikuro. Okay, like where is she? Let's not do anything till she gets here, and she can They sent her away for the purpose of a dramatic entrance only.
The only thing that really bugged me about this episode, actually, this time, besides that, was. Yeah, he's got this weapons nuking entire armies, and then he gets a direct hit on Iria, and she's just like, my little thing I had under my coat blocked it. Really?
It did have 3 barrels, and each barrel did something different. Because you remember in the first episode, she shot Fujikuro with one of the barrels.
Okay, just to
barely any damage.
That's plausible, and I buy it. However, we see multiple times where when he's fighting the army, he's like he does beam, huge explosion, people get vaporized. Thing spins, he does it again, people get vaporized. He spins again, and then it's just same thing. So I'm like, but yeah, maybe it's a lower powered version.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, Jeremy, help me out, because again, I'm also frustrated with that weapon. So the weapon that Zerim, Gren's weapon he's using, is the same one the military is trying to get online to use against him, but theirs is giant.
No, no, they're different weapons. They have one is called a Donampadon or something, and this one's called a Burbadon. They are different. They just sound similar.
I thought they were the same.
Yeah, no, it's like Dumbledore.
Right, exactly. Get a wizard out there. No, they're different weapons. This is in the movie. There's something called a metis cannon, and you're supposed to get 2 weeks. It takes 2 weeks to get the paperwork done in order to have the right to fire it. But she owns it and has it with her on a business when she's on a bounty. So like it's a concept in this universe and this storytelling that these hunters have weapons that, they're so devastating that you literally have to fill out paperwork before you can pull the trigger. So it's weird. I think it's a holdover from the movie that the weapon could be that powerful. In any other setting, it would be unbelievable.
Yeah, I feel like this is something you would complain about in most other anime.
Yes.
Well, the scene is that this might be the next episode, but the army gets attacked, and then they get out the flamethrowers. Like, we should have used these from the start. And I'm like, yeah, that seems obvious.
Yeah.
And then here's this super omega beam flying around. Like, you guys should get those. They're
exactly. Great. Well, and that's the thing that's so crazy is that the hunters must make so much money if the local government, especially a government like Mice, which appears to be a pretty developed planet, if the local government can't afford to have some of those. Of course, they did mention that the battery should have been used up after just a few blasts. So it seems like they're kind of 1 or 2 shots each.
I think with Zerim, it's needed.
It is, yeah.
Where's the robot army? Where'd the robot army go?
That is an excellent question. They should have been sending tons of robots.
And that's the question: is the robot army the government, or are they the corporation?
They're corporation.
I was under the impression, yeah. And this is the government fighting Zerim, so that's why the robots are not there.
But why wouldn't they help? That's like, if you're calling in hunters, I would think the corporation would also be like, we'll help. Our headquarters maybe, or branch is located here.
Wait, this isn't. I thought the corporation was the government.
No.
Oh.
No.
Well, they dress the same. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
And then 10 minutes later, she's back in the city. No, you aren't waiting for him.
Oh.
He's right.
I know what you're talking about. If you watch what happened, there was an exchange.
There's
that
no
took
excuse
place.
for this,
First,
Jeremy.
she's out there and she's reminiscing with Kay.
If you watch.
And then that thing shows up and she's like, oh my God, no, that thing didn't follow us out here. How to get here? So she's starting to figure it out at that point, right? So she goes in, she hears, this is in previous episodes, she hears the Zerim calling, which is Gren calling. And so then she goes back to where it showed up before because she's thinking, oh, he's going to come here. And so she gets back there. Now, regardless of why she wouldn't think I should go to wherever the transmission's coming
still a waste of time.
Maybe it wasn't a radio transmission. I don't know. But she goes back there and waits, and she says specifically, you don't show up when I want you to show up. So she genuinely thought he was going to show up there. So now I think she's trying to figure out, like, where are you going to show up? How do I find you? What's going on? And bulletins were going out for hunters to deal with this. She should have known. Yeah, she knew the bulletin was gone. I think that's what it was called, because she saw that in episode 2. But yeah, maybe she was getting prepared. She obviously had different gear during the final encounter, so maybe she went back to her place.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Already blown up. I don't know.
She even says, you know where I'm gonna be.
Final episode.
Don't let that go. Fight him.
I win by default.
From trying to kill Gren. The butthole egg is now grown over the entire building, and Zerim is now controlling the building. So the government has come up with the plan of, we'll just teleport the entire thing away. We've got giant teleporting cannons. We'll send this all the way. Not our problem anymore.
Yep.
They are immediately attacked by the monsters. And while this is happening, Kay decides, well, I'm not waiting for Iria. I'm going to go do this myself. And immediately runs out of gas. Can't even get out of the garage. And is yelled at by Fujikuro, like, you're an idiot. Why would you do that?
Check the gas.
Iria steals Fujikuro's ship and decides she's going to go do it herself. And keeps saying, Kay, you stay safe. No need to do this. She goes and starts fighting the same monsters the army is getting destroyed by, and she ends up crashing. And just before she gets overrun, Fujikuro and Kay show up in the same vehicle, obviously refueled. They pick her up, and she's like, okay, Kay, come along. And they go inside the building to fight Zerim together. Fujikuro goes off and fights the monsters himself. They have the final battle with Zerim, and Kay's focus is on the butthole egg, and Iria fights Zerim. And Kay had created a spear that creates the shield for them. right? She had rigged some special weapon that would use the same shield technology that the ships use that we've seen so much throughout the show, and they use this to try to fight against Zerim. They end up losing, getting knocked off the building, and the entire building is teleported away except for a small sliver because one of the cannons couldn't fire. And that's where Zerim is standing. So, of course, Iria uses that wing that I've described so many times in so many episodes that I've said so many times.
That's fair.
And glides away. No, a wing just shows up on her back. And they go back to finish the fight. She gives the wing to Kay and kicks Kay away. And then the final sliver of the building is teleported away. And we find out Bob has hacked the system and sent them to a desert. And she has the final battle with the monster.
Really lucky that she
cut
won.
It in half
Bob was taking a serious chance there.
And it lands on top of her and starts to absorb her. And we find out that this was all part of her plan, that she would get absorbed by it at least a little bit and find its weakness, which is going badly. But then Gren...
Not a good plan.
That's why I said Gren must still be alive, because Gren's face shows up and shows her the weakness, which is the big, obvious white face on the creature. And
she has never played a video game in her life.
Kills it. Just then, Kay shows up in a car, and they get in, they drive away, and they all go home and live happily ever after till the movies. And that's the end of this anime.
I think that the ending is it leaves a lot of things to be desired, and it leaves me unsatisfied. I want more.
Well, before we get into the meat of it,
not more of exactly what has transpired, but more expansion.
This episode shocked me because we suddenly get a full nude shower scene out of nowhere. This has not been established in this anime.
Welcome to Night's Anime, Troy.
And then they just pop it in at the end, and I was like, "Whoa, oh, wait, really?" And she.
Oh, you're just so shocked and appalled.
I had to rewatch it several times.
Extremely quick though. As far as like any exposure, so it wasn't like a gratuitous nude scene.
Throwing it in at the final episode is kind of like, put that in the first episode. Let the audience know.
But
yeah, what he's saying.
I know if I was watching
each episode, really.
kid, I would have loved that.
Yeah. You need something for the first 2 minutes.
I was like, man.
Game of Thrones shows you dong in the very first episode. You know you're going to see dong every season.
Yep.
What else? Go ahead.
As far as Kay is concerned.
Oh, back to hated kids.
Kay's build-up is literally to episode 6. Like, her whole story arc throughout this entire thing was just so you could see that she was going to grow up to be just like Iria. Iria was going to mentor her.
You say it like it's such a bad thing.
So far, it's like all of a sudden she's living with her. Like, it's like all of a sudden Iria decided to take Kay into her house, and there was no explanation. It was just another storyline that was just kind of just.
I don't agree with that, Jason.
The ending battle in the city was some of the best, filming that I've seen in a while. I will say that especially for its time, like the animation was extremely well done.
Okay. I thought you said worse.
And even though like
it's good.
The visuals were really, really good in my opinion. The story was not like you said, Jeremy. There's very little explanation given. All of a sudden she thought to herself, oh, well, maybe if I absorb it, I'll share mind with it, and then I'll be able to know its weakness. This thing has taken damage while it's been exposed in that area many times before. So there is no there was no precedent for that being its weak spot.
That's why I thought the
point am I trying to make?
Yeah. So killing it was a little weird. I think if it had been like after a really, really big battle, and for some reason Kay and Iria were thrown away, and it was teleported away, and it was left, I think that would have been a much more interesting ending than her just murdering it at the end, because it felt empty.
No closure, though.
I think they did it because that's what they do in the movie.
Yeah, that's.
I think that's what it is, and it's not in the sense that they use the knife, because she doesn't. She uses a gun. But I think it's we need to provide the same outline of the movie, and a resolution at the end has to be that the big bad dies. Now, I can't say for sure that that's the case, but it's the pattern that I see. So I think that's what's taking place. I do think that it was a terrible vulnerability. The reason I say that is because, yeah, I could justify the knife in her beads as being something that is, incredibly advanced. Perhaps, some kind of special shield destroying, but it just doesn't make sense. It's a knife. And so what about the nuclear explosion that took out the Karma? What about the slamming into the planet from atmosphere? What about, all of the different situations when that head could have been wounded and it shows no signs of damage whatsoever? I didn't like the way that it was eventually killed, but I think that was just for consistency with the movies. Yeah, but I liked that she did what she did as far as trying to assimilate with it.
I thought that was a neat idea.
Yeah, I view it as her idea, and I don't know whether to say if it was a wrong idea or if it was the right idea. I get the sense that it was the right idea because she did get that image of Glenn's face morphing into Zerim's white face, so it did work out for her. But where she made the logical connection to do that, I can only attribute to Iria being weird. there doesn't seem to be enough for me.
This was also the best horror moment of the anime, which is kind of ironic because this is the moment the monster is getting killed. But that seeing her pinned down by this heavy mass, knowing she can't pull out of it, firing her guns and having, we already know that's not going to hurt it, and watching it slowly eating her was actually a little scary. And
just terrified.
Would it have been nice to see something like that from the start?
Yeah, would have.
Yeah.
Were you watching between your fingers?
This episode is really inconsistent. It's like they want to show that she's the protective big sister, but then moments later realizes, no, I want to be the unprotective big sister like I always wanted. So come along and fight this invincible monster with me. You're here now. I guess I can't tell you to go back. Oh wait, I could have, but never mind.
Yeah. I also wanted to know what happened to Fujikuro, and the reason I say that is because obviously the vessel gets back because Kei shows up with it later, so it made it back. But we also know it has autopilot. So did Fujikuro make it back healthy, semi-healthy, not at all?
This is undebatable. Fujikuro is fine.
He's great.
But I had that thought at the end too. Like, did we see what happened to Fujikuro? I actually would have liked to have seen him kicking some monster butt, which I assumed he did.
Yeah. That was really unsatisfying.
As in
I want to know what happened to him.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start wrap up. So we're gonna
all right.
So Jason, you had an explanation for the knife.
Oh yeah. So have you seen A Quiet Place?
The first and second one.
Okay, so from the looks of it, it seems that the front of the face and the head part are near indestructible. We see it damaged once, right? And it was due to extreme circumstances, falling from atmosphere. Mm-hmm. So what if it's explosive resistant, and the only way to damage this thing is when its face is extended? In all the situations that we see it get damaged and not take damage, the thing's in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's the pink part that's the weakness.
Yeah.
And I had thought that a little bit too, which there's a spot where Gren smacks it with his club when it's extended, but it's not a blade, and he hits the head and not the neck. And I was wondering the same thing, like, is it the neck that's damaging? But in the second movie, she literally shoots the face head on with a pistol, and it blows up. Granted, it's the movie. Rules may not be the same.
Spoilers.
Well,
how dare you know what I was going to do after this podcast?
Are you?
There too.
No.
But if not for that movie, like, if we set that aside, I totally agree with you.
Okay. actually looking back on this, or like watching it this time, I didn't have too many complaints with it because it was mostly action scene. I thought the I'm going to get absorbed was kind of a dumb idea, but obviously that worked out. And I agree with Past Troy, having that mask like pinned down. That was decent. I didn't feel scared, but I could see how that could be portrayed that way.
Some people might.
The only thing that really bugged me about this episode, this is going to be so dumb. So they're falling, and she has this wing thing. It's one wing. Have you ever dropped something with one wing before? Like spin. And what's better, like, let's say, obviously it's her equipment. She has experience with this thing. She puts it on a child that's never seen this thing before and picks them all. Yeah, she's just going to know how to use it.
She should just be barfing all the way down.
I thought she died. So she died.
Yeah, that's death sentence. Just in a really spinny way.
Sephiroth would like a word with you.
You're right. One-winged monster.
Besides that, like I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was pretty good. I liked the ending fight. I liked how it was resolved, and being in the middle of that desert they animated that beautifully. I have very little complaints about it. I don't think it was a great episode, but in comparison to the other episodes, I thought it was good. That was fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked it. I mean, not as much as the first, second, and third. Well, mostly.
Yeah.
But it was good.
I had two new thoughts when I watched it that old Past Troy didn't mention. One, when they came out in the handmade crystal shield and they explode through the roof, and then they land right behind Zerim. I'm like, oh, that's awkward. Like, hey, how's it going? Not sneaking up on you. My bad. I just thought that was funny the way they landed, like, just right there. The other one, so she kills him, and I know, she has to flee because of the desert, right?
Yeah.
She didn't even know, but even before she knows what the desert is, before she has a ride out, there's like almost no emotion about it's done. It just felt like it was like, and it's dead, and it's time to go. It's the end of the movie. I'm not gonna grieve my brother. I'm not gonna shout in victory of this long fought war I've been in. Just all right.
That's fair.
Next mission.
Fair.
I agree. Yep.
All right, let's hear how we bring this thing home for the next 18 minutes. Jesus.
Oh my god.
And really kind of go over our points, but now we can use specific moments in the anime. But we just went through the plot. So
there's going to be a lot of repeating.
What were the moments that stood out? What was unique about this? What can this show really?
Oh, that's right. We did want to do this at the beginning.
Opposite of all that as well. What
in theories
drug it down? Why don't we, Jeremy? Why don't you go last since you? You're gonna have the best, most comprehensive answer. I think we can tell that at this point.
Okay.
So go ahead, Jason.
I'm pretty sure we came to the decision to cut all this later because we're just repeating
appearances, but also Zerim was a cool monster. I liked him. And obviously the bottom half, the disc was the monster. Obviously, we see that in the first episode.
Hey, I said that earlier.
Yeah.
It was an interesting monster, and I think that was probably the best part of the anime for me. Again, like I've been saying this entire time, it had too many cool ideas that just threw to the wind. I think the characters could have been developed more. I think it should have said, I'm an action anime, I'm an adventure anime, or I'm a horror anime. It should have picked one and went with the theme. Yeah. I didn't realize it was written by 4 different people, so that kind of makes sense how it's so cut up and unfinished.
It starts with a 10-minute action scene.
If I were to give it an overall review, definitely worth a watch. It's I wouldn't say it's a.
I'm gonna have to show my wife this because she'll know what shirt that is.
Not a bad one. So,
out of 3 Bakas, what would you give it?
I'd give it 2 Bakas.
We were scoring it 3.
Out of 3?
Listening to Jeremy explain a lot of these details that flesh out the story.
When did we move to 5?
Thinking about what Jason said earlier,
Immediately after.
Probably immediately after.
This has that same thing Star Wars has, and I said this in my notes that the world, and I don't mean the single planet, but the world building they did in this.
I think they really got that
universe to explore. An anime that I would love to see take place in this universe. And if you look at these tiny details, just like in Star Wars, they're very satisfying.
Star Wars,
they're
man.
in there, just like the holster. They paid attention to the details. What they missed that Star Wars didn't was that if you aren't watching for the details, you can still enjoy Star Wars, whereas this has a very shallow story on the top of it. And that shallow story, I think, is what is taking away from it the most.
Stand by this.
Like that
Here we go.
Conspiracy when, let's dig deeper in, Iria and Zerim deserve better treatment.
Yeah.
The highlights, the action scenes were great, and I really did like, the main characters. I like the monster. I really like Iria as a character. I like her design. Her armor was cool. She was an anime female Batman, and she proved that all the way to the end. She even had the Batman scene, but even in the final battle, she's still pulling out gadgets that she had planned on using. That's a very Batman thing. So the world and the characters make this anime for me, the action scenes, but the plot itself did it a disservice.
So many Bakas.
I'll give it 2 Bakas.
Yeah, Troy.
I can't believe I forgot.
One episode I enjoyed watching it. It just
from you as well.
Even compared to older times, this isn't going to reach Akira levels, and it could have.
We should go back to 3 Bakas.
All right, basically you guys have said everything that I'm thinking of. I love.
Why have nuance?
Every action scene. Every action scene was awesome. The gadgets were really, really cool.
All right, hold on. I'm sorry I'm cutting off Jerry. We talked for 2 hours. There's nuance already. I was against review scores. These guys, I was outvoted. It's review scores. That's why we have.
How would you give any finality to the review if we don't give scores?
For 2 hours. They know how we feel.
Troy just wanted to do like a thumbs up, thumbs down, right?
Yeah, that's that, and the 3 Bakas was also thematic. Our name is Baka Baka Baka. Then you can fill out the, it's 3. Good, it's fine, or it's bad. And then for the minute details, there's a 2-hour conversation that happens before that.
But what if there's like a kind of good or a kind of bad?
Yeah.
Then that will have come out in the discussion.
But then you have to listen to the whole discussion. See, I wanted a 10 scale.
Yeah, I know.
No.
I could even go for 100. I'm totally fine with that.
And at some point, you guys wanted to do 0.5s, and I was like, no, because that's just sneaking a 10-point scale into a 5-point scale.
Yes.
So we settled, agreed on the 5-point scale. Sorry for cutting off Jeremy. We'll go back to
give it a 1.25.
Yes.
Out of 3.
It's driving me crazy.
Think that if you are willing to watch at least the first movie, you will get a lot more out of the anime. But if you watch the anime over and over and over again, because it's the only anime you have for a while. but if you're only going to watch it once, then there's a lot left. And it's funny because when it was just me and I hadn't heard anything except, because I honestly hadn't looked up any reviews from anybody else until after I started watching it again for this podcast. And so when it was just
so bad, don't watch reviews at all.
I didn't actually notice a lot.
Yeah, we did have to learn that.
The plot holes and everything. I genuinely did.
Watch them after.
Because I was watching and rewatching it, and I was filling them in my own head. And so if you want to do that, and you're okay with that, it's like everything else is there for you. If you want to fill that in, arguably it is the most important thing. So having it missing is very detrimental. But I think that's what brings it down to a 2 Bakas for me. If you're willing to to watch the movie.
You only gave it 2?
Bridge the connection.
I don't believe it.
Then I would give it a 3.
This was doctored.
No, he's
AI to change this.
I would stick with it.
No, he's hedging his bets. He's saying, like, if you've only consumed just the anime once.
But his final score was 2.
It was a 3. No, his final score was a 3. Listen back.
Oh, gosh, dang it.
You were talking over me.
For an effect.
But I would stick with it, too.
Oh, okay.
No. You're wrong, Jeremy. You're wrong.
Okay.
It's a 5.
Out of 3.
Out of 3.
Especially mine. Do you guys have any crazy theories? Jeremy?
Okay, they're going to think. Any? Yeah, let's do our final review scores.
5.
Good summary, good wrap up to an episode of professionalism right there.
Right. It's a strong 3.
Still a 2
it didn't
then.
age. For me, it didn't age well. And man, the OP. Oh gosh, that is just 90s nostalgia that I just can't stand. Anyways,
No, nostalgia.
It's just the worst. It was a fun time. I think it's worth a watch if you're looking for like an older anime to like, you know, see some nostalgia, see how animation used to look back then. But like, it's middle of the road.
I actually like the style of the anime, that old style, like Outlaw Star and just that kind of character design they were leaning towards. So 3 for me as well. My not much change. I actually agreed with a lot that I said, other than some finicky details, like about cupcake tanks and stuff.
That's what I'm going to take away from this.
The cupcake tank and the butthole egg.
I said I had a theory about Fujikuro, and I have no idea what it's going to be. I'm really excited to see what our theories are. Here we go.
Okay.
Jeremy, you got to have a crazy theory or 2 in there.
I do. I think that Zerim's presence on mice, when he actually comes down to mice, and the whole reason that conflict takes place is because he's fighting internally, trying to assimilate Gren. We get the impression that he is using Gren's knowledge of the transit system to teleport around. If these are truly alien biotech weapons designed before this current civilization rose, which is the impression that's given, then they would want this information once they stumble across it. My impression is that as ancient biotech weapons, we know there's more than one of them. It's actually made clear in episode 5, I think, where he says, he's calling his buddies, and you see all these blips. Those are other Zerims. In Zerim 2, there is another Zerim that happens to be female.
And it's not another.
But in the first Zerim, the Zerim actually has a single breast on its Elder Torer, which implies some sort of female DNA being present in that Zerim as well. So it could be androgynous, hermaphroditic, like an earthworm. I have no idea. But the sense I get is that these creatures that they're sterile. That's the sense I get. That their only form of reproduction would be to make these clones for a purpose. How else would you design a weapon? You wouldn't want it reproducing naturally. So this has to be some kind of vestigial gender issue. I don't think it's part of them, and I don't think that they're capable of reproducing. So I think that he's fighting with Gren because he came across, when he assimilated him, this knowledge, wants it, sees its value as intel. Being a programmed weapon, that would have taken over any level of intelligence.
I see why we don't do these anymore.
Fighting with him, finding that Gren is putting up a big fight for some reason. Anime often present this issue of willpower being strong enough.
I want to hear more about how Zerim bang each other.
Right.
So for some reason, Gren is.
Do they have like a mating call?
Which
that's what they was doing.
Iria. And so this
all tentacles all the time.
Iria forces Zerim to come to mice to eliminate that connection, kill Iria, wipe out that, so that he can fully assimilate Gren. At the same time, Tanya believes that Tanya's my wife, and she has an opinion on this. She believes that Gren was actually
you already made her watch it.
Forcing Zerim to come
I did. I made her watch it again.
To present the opportunity to Iria to kill him, to either put him out of his misery, or because he had faith that Iria would be the only one who might be able to defeat Zerim if he could give her an opportunity like he did in episode 5. So I think the whole thing is because of that assimilation issue.
It's amazing. That's like amazing fanfic.
I can see that. We're stunned. Any crazy ideas you came up with while watching this?
And we're moving.
The only one that seems
Wait, did you cut him?
No, that wasn't a cut.
You did.
One more thing, and then you cut to me.
You're supposed to wait till. Oh my god! You're supposed to do it before I say one more thing.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Don't worry, no one's ever gonna see this.
Yeah, right.
10 minutes left. We can do this.
Because Zerim doesn't seem to be a species to me, or at least the way he's presented, or is presented. It feels very much like a weapon gone out of control, and similar to different movies that have had like nanites go out of control, right? Grey goo, if you will.
Grey goo.
The reason I say that is because, you know, the very first episode, they're transporting this thing. And then, you know, later on we find out it's calling its buddies. Well, did they live somewhere? Did they, you know, and the thing is that, you know, the doctor knew about him, the government knew about him, this corporation knew about him. I think they're a weapon that got out of control, and they've dealt with it before, and that they've teleported it away before. And that's why the doctor said it's just going to keep coming back. You can't just keep teleporting it away, implying that they've done this before, that they've just, you know, thrown out the trash and, well, it came back again, I better teleport it away. So, yeah, that's my crazy theory, is that I don't think it's a species. I think it's a bioweapon, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy?
That's got out, that they've lost control of.
And Jeremy, you probably agree with that, right? You said that they
100%. Yeah, there's actually multiple different titles that are given to Zerim: alien bioweapon, immortal space monster, and then also cyborg in Zerim.
Great karaoke singer.
Sure, Zerim. They turn it into a cyborg. The way Zerim is presented,
one for your anime avatar.
We're capable of
amazing
acquiring and
botanist.
containing it and modifying it.
Friend to all animals.
Baka said when he was
in the first one or the second one, it just eats a dog. It's so sad.
Oh no!
Yeah, Iria like comes up and she's petting the dog and everything, and then the dog comes back later, and the robot Zerim is there, and it looks over at the dog, and then it like grins evilly, and then just boom, destroys the dog right in front of Iria. Yep.
Child's play, controlling Zerim's child's play. You know, we either have to accept that he was right and somebody screwed something up and that's how he got out of the cargo, or he was wrong and presumptuous and the creature got out of cargo because of him being wrong. But based on Zerim 2's cyborg nature of this creature, I think I have to conclude that he's right. So chances are the government and the corporations and such know about Zerim, and I don't know that I have the impression that they've teleported him away. I think that they have faith in their technology that they could, but I don't know that I'm convinced that they have. And I think that was Dr. Takau's argument is, yeah, but he's never been here. They know where this
Starting
place
to see why
is
it's
now.
20
They're gonna
minutes
keep
more.
coming back.
Hey.
And yeah. So,
And why you cut him earlier.
I only have a small theory.
Oh boy.
and
Hey, I
don't
think
even
I've
need
learned
discuss
to
it because it's probably 100%
keep it
right.
to a minimum.
Fujikura loves Iria.
Yep.
Oh, I shit.
Imagine that. That's never happened.
He's her uncle. He's like an uncle figure.
Episode.
He's creepy.
Oh, Jeremy's fighting
that's
him.
what she said. He's the creepy uncle.
As soon as I saw him bring flowers, I'm like, yep, that's happening.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was interesting if you look at the situation, as long as Gren was present, which we now know, as Fujikuro said, they weren't siblings. Come on. Gren was in this position of like senpai, something like that. There's a word for it, right?
Yeah,
I like
senpai.
anime, but I don't know those words.
Older upperclassman, the senior, the advisor character. Yeah.
Exactly. As long as he was there, Fujikuro was the outsider. But as soon as he disappears, Fujikuro fills the vacuum. So I think, like you say, Fujikuro is trying to step in. But specifically, I think he's trying to fill the role Glenn had. which would have eventually probably turned into a physical relationship with her. So, yeah.
So we only got a few minutes left.
On my theory, I do think I see. I felt that way similar to. I actually was like, I think the English actor is playing his age too high, because I think he's supposed to be a little bit closer to a romantic kind of part. Not that I don't think Iria sees anything there, but get what Troy was doing. All right, let's finish this up.
Okay.
And there's one question. Normally, I would ask, like, what do you want to see in a sequel or in the next sequence of episodes?
Oh yeah, we did used to
but
do
this
that.
already kind of had movie further stuff. So I'm gonna ask this: what do you want to see if there's a reboot of it now?
More.
Catch you guys up for, and you gotta keep your answers brief because we're running out of time.
So
I
for
think. Oh, go
How
ahead.
many times do we say
For
that?
me,
I know.
I would like to see nearly the identical story as a story arc. But like I've been saying the entire episode, turn it into multiple seasons. Turn it into a 12 or 24 episode season. These 6 episodes, like you said, mistreated Iria, mistreated Zerim. They needed to be fleshed out. Plot holes need to be fixed. But I would love to see a retelling of this exact same storyline, but just longer. Make it a proper story.
Okay, so for me, I say embrace the horror.
Yes.
I say go full horror and less Zerim, only to make him scarier. Have Iria going across the galaxy facing like these horrible monsters, but nothing comes close to Zerim. And when Zerim shows up, you know this episode really matters. And you know.
So copy Supernatural.
Supernatural scare the crap out of me.
You even said
really
it.
Good, dark, scary stories that embrace Zerim's mystery and his threat. That's what I'd like to see.
I have to agree. I think that there are a couple of things specifically that I would like to have seen addressed more. And in a reboot, I want at least 2 or 3 episodes specifically about these things. Number one would be Glenn's battle with Zerim during assimilation. We know it's happened because Glenn was able to override Zerim, overpower him, and push him back. So I want to know what was Glenn doing during some of the other scenes. And even if it's not entire episodes that are devoted to it, just little tidbits here and there to kind of flesh out what's that environment like? What's that conversation like that they're having? I also want to know a little bit more about the Zerim creatures. I want to know more about where they come from, what they're doing, why they're not overtaking the galaxy right now. What are their plans, their goals? How many of them are there? Is there some kind of group social structure, or are they all individual weapons that react autonomously? I want more of what that creature is
the
like.
The Alien prequels would like a word with you.
Guys, because you're going at it from the horror aspect. For me,
these things don't always work
like
well.
The sci-fi aspect a little better than the horror aspect.
Well enough alone.
Horror for me rarely comes without being hand in hand with gore, and I don't mind gore if it is few and far between, but it can also override the entire episode and entire series very quickly. Like Gantz is one of my favorite series, but the hardest time
I just want to talk about Gantz now.
So if I can avoid
all the time you
gore,
mention Gantz right from the beginning.
I prefer that. And so
watch Stranger Things.
I'm gonna have to look that up and check it out. See. Or are you trolling me that I'm gonna get gore?
No. Actually, it's very I watched it with my kids.
Troy just wanted someone to talk to about Stranger Things.
Still do.
So to wrap up the show, now we this is where we announce the next anime we're watching, and we don't have that for the actual episode we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna say next time we're watching Dragon Ball Z, the first 13 episodes. This is about.
We're not. Don't listen to him. We're not doing that.
Together.
Never.
An alien invasion.
We're gonna be watching the Suicide Squad anime one.
Our leading hero.
However,
stay tuned.
ReZero season 4 just got.
And then we'd also here would mention our Twitter account, our email account, so people could reach out to us if they have their own opinions or want to
Look at
share
us with our
thoughts
little
on the
template.
episode itself. And we can leave that there. Otherwise,
at Baka Podcast. Or our website, theanimebakaclub.com. Hit the contact us button, or wherever you found this podcast, you can leave a comment. Let us know what you think of our podcast.
Yeah.
Or
podcastception.
Watch
Or Iria. Tell us about Iria and how much you love it. It's amazing. It's the best anime ever.
If you've seen Iria, I want to hear from you because I have a feeling you have. It was before their time, man. It was before.
It's true. It's true.
All right, let's see him close this.
Make fun of my defending. Make fun of my defending your
Yeah, do that.
If you do have thoughts or comments or want to reach out, feel free to leave a comment in the description below.
You guys know no one's gonna watch this, right?
I think we were really in character.
Guys,
practice.
Watching this anime.
Which is something we don't do anymore.
I should say thank you guys.
I had a good time going back and rewatching this anime, so I thought it was a good one for at least
I'd
to
seen it
start
before.
off on.
I think.
Fantastic. Till next time.
Oh, okay.
Guess it's over.
We're done. Good for them. All right. Well, you heard ways to contact us and let us know. The next anime we're watching is Suicide Squad for episode 201. We're gonna keep going because why not? Any last thoughts on our 200 episodes of podcasts, guys?
It's been a blast.
Yeah.
Has it?
It has. It's been a lot of fun. Honestly, I don't think I would have watched this much anime if we didn't have these episodes.
Definitely.
Watching 6-year-old videos of yourself is rough.
Yeah.
Oof.
Or he has it. All right, let's say goodbye properly.
Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
Sayonara.